Chapter 872. In Emperor Zhao's eyes, retreating was a matter for the future. Now that the star beast had not broken out of a seal, if the heavenly court were to retreat without a fight, it would inevitably be a joke. Everything else aside, just the prestige that the heavenly court had established in the hearts of the 10,000 races would be affected. Although such an influence was very weak and not qualified to shake the heavenly court's position. But a 1,000-mile dike could be destroyed by an ant's nest. Any bit of wavering would accumulate. One day, it would all erupt, and by then, it would be enough to shake the heavenly court's rule. Therefore, the heavenly court could not retreat, especially not without a fight. Even if they wanted to retreat, they had to show the heavenly court's aura before they could retreat calmly. Even if they were not a match for the star beast, they could not let others think that the heavenly court was weak and could not fight against the star beast. Emperor Zhongyuan. The demon emperor opened his mouth and met Emperor Zhao's indifferent eyes. His heart could not help but tremble, and in the end, he did not finish his sentence. Being the 5 emperors did not mean that they were on equal footing. Seriously speaking, the imperial emperors of the 5 directions were also divided into several ranks. As Emperor Zhongyuan, Emperor Zhao was naturally the leader of the 5 emperors and ranked first. The Dog Emperor and Si Hanhai's strength was second only to Emperor Zhao among the 5 emperors. Among them, the Dog Emperor was a veteran emperor. Although Si Hanhai was a new emperor, as the existence who established the demon race, his identity as the first demon emperor was not comparable to the other emperors. Therefore, the 2 of them were ranked in the second echelon among the 5 emperors. The remaining demon emperor and the soul protection emperor were ranked last. There was no choice. Although the demon race was a top race, the demon emperor was still a transition from the golden rock race, and there was still a gap between him and the dog emperor. As for the soul protection emperor, it was needless to say. If not for the fact that the soul protection race was a race that joined the human race early, with the strength of the soul protection emperor, he would not be qualified to sit in the position of the 5 emperors. But after so many years, after the soul protection emperor received the blessing of the 5 emperors, his strength gradually caught up. Although he was still at the bottom of the imperial emperors of the 5 directions, he wasn't any weaker than the other immortal gods. To put it bluntly, the 5 imperial emperors seemed to be of equal status, but when it came to making decisions, there was still only one person in charge. Now, Emperor Zhao had decided to start a war with the star beasts. No matter how unwilling the demon emperor was, he had no way to refuse. This was because the other party was not simply Emperor Zhongyuan. He was also the human emperor of the human race. Given the current power of the human race in the heavenly court, a mere southern flame emperor couldn't contend with them at all. Since no one has any objections, then let's get ready for battle. Emperor Zhao retracted his gaze, then looked at the other immortals and announced his decision. Even the demon emperors cowered. There was no need to even mention the other immortals and gods. No one was willing to fall out with the human race over such a trivial matter. After all, the human race was truly powerful now. It was not something that the other immortals and gods were qualified to contend against. If he angered the human race, even if nothing happened on the surface, he wouldn't have it easy in the dark. Therefore, after Emperor Zhao gave the order, the other immortals and deities all left to gather their armies and prepare for war. Within the palace of the Southern Flame Monarch, the demon emperor sat there with a gloomy expression. In front of him was the earthly emperor, one of the 4 war gods. Emperor, you don't seem to be in a good mood. The earthly emperor smiled slightly. He casually finished brewing some spirit tea and poured a cup for the demon emperor. Drinking tea. He didn't have this hobby in the past. It was just that after meeting Qin Shujian more and more, and seeing that he had this hobby, he gradually became interested in it. He picked up the spirit tea in front of him. The earthly emperor took a sip and praised, "Drinking tea is indeed a good thing. No wonder the emperor of heaven likes it so much. Sometimes sitting down and tasting it can relax a lot. Emperor, why don't you try it too? Maybe you'll be in a better mood." After saying that, the earthly emperor revealed a meaningful smile. The demon emperor's expression was still gloomy. Don't beat around the bush. You and I both know very well why you came to my Southern Flame Emperor Palace today. If you're sincere, then let's talk openly. If you're not, then scram. Don't talk nonsense. He didn't intend to play Tai Chi with the earthly emperor. The Southern Flame Monarch was in a bad mood after what had happened today. If it was in the past, he might even deal with the earthly emperor. But today, forget it. Hearing the demon emperor's rude words, the earthly emperor didn't get angry, but the smile on his face faded a little. He put down the teacup in his hand and sat with his back slightly straightened. Emperors should be clear about what happened today. The human race is powerful, and there are only so many deity positions in the heavenly court. But the human race can monopolize 5 deity positions. This is no ordinary matter. The earthly emperor poured another cup of tea for himself as he spoke. Then, he said seriously, as one of the 5 imperial emperors, the authority of your words is incomparable to that of the Zhongyuan imperial emperor. In the future, if there are more deity positions in the heavenly court, I'm afraid they won't be able to compete with the human race. If the emperor of heaven wasn't a human race, at least he wouldn't sit and watch the human race dominate. But the emperor of heaven was born in the human race. Even if he doesn't deliberately favor the human race, he won't suppress them. As time passes, the human race will really have the final say in the heavenly court. So, what if it's a one-man rule? Don't tell me you have a way? The demon emperor sneered. He was very clear about what the earthly emperor said. But it was one thing to know, and it was another to be able to solve it. Just by relying on his mouth, no matter how much he said, it would be useless. At the level of the demon emperor, many things couldn't be solved with just words. The specifics depended on the implementation. The earthly emperor said calmly, if the human race really wants to grow, the situation of the myriad races can be imagined. But with the existence of the heavenly court, it's impossible for us to openly attack the human race. The only way now is for us to join forces. As long as the other immortals and gods join forces, the human race will be suppressed no matter how powerful they are. There will definitely be new deity positions in the future. We must join forces to ensure that those deity positions don't fall into the hands of the human race. With just you? Of course not, but I'm not the only one in the heavenly court who is dissatisfied with the human race. I just came forward to discuss with the emperor. If the emperor really has this idea, I will naturally introduce you to the other immortals and gods. After all, the alliance of some immortals and gods is still too weak. If the emperor can join us, it will also be a great thing for us. After the earthly emperor finished speaking, a faint smile appeared on his face. Fighting against the human race. It was never something that any race could do. Only by joining forces with experts from all sides could they be qualified to fight against the human race. Chapter 873. The demon emperor picked up the teacup in front of him and took a sip. He smacked his lips as if he didn't like the taste and put down the teacup again. The gloomy expression on his face was gone. After his expression returned to normal, a powerful aura was emitted from Emperor Nanyun's body. Seeing the change in the demon emperor's expression, the earthly sovereign's face was also slightly shaken. It seems that you have already roped in many immortals and gods. That surprised me. The demon emperor looked at him with a faint smile on his face. Emperor, you're being too serious. We're just trying to protect ourselves. The earth emperor shook his head and didn't comment. After all, the heavenly court is not the heavenly court of any race, but the heavenly court of all races. If we allow the human race to dominate the heavenly court, then how will we deal with ourselves in the future? As long as we suppress the arrogance of the human race, we will have a chance to stand out. Even if there are no problems with the myriad races now, it's still necessary to prepare for a rainy day. After all, no one can say for sure when an accident will happen one day. The Earth Emperor's words were obvious. The heavenly court now had Qin Shujian in charge, so it might not be too biased towards the human race. But if Qin Shujian died, then based on the current situation, the position of the Emperor of Heaven would most likely fall into the hands of the human race. At that time, it was hard to say if the person who took over as the Emperor of Heaven would still be as fair as now. If he was really biased, the myriad races would definitely be in a difficult situation. The demon emperor's expression was calm. We'll talk about the future in the future. Let's talk about something practical. There's no point in talking about this. Since the emperor is straightforward, I won't beat around the bush. The Earth Emperor stopped talking nonsense. After pondering for a while, he said, the emperor should know that the other deity positions of the heavenly court haven't made much movement yet, but there are a few deity positions that have been confirmed. One is the Tao of alchemy, the other is the Tao of array formations, and the last one is the Tao of forging. The Emperor of Heaven said that if any of the three broke through to the third realm of the Grandmaster, they would be able to enter the heavenly court and obtain a deity position. Among the myriad races, the three Taos have almost all declined. Even if they have reappeared in recent years, there is no way to see results for the time being. As he spoke, the earthly sovereign paused. Looking at the human race, there is no doubt that the three Taos are flourishing. Although no third realm grandmasters have been born yet, there are already a few second realm grandmasters. In other words, with the current strength of the human race, if we don't do anything, the three deity positions will fall into the hands of the human race sooner or later. At that time, the power of the human race in the heaven would definitely increase greatly. If we want to keep them in check, it will be even more difficult. As such, I think that if we want to deal with the human race, we have to start with the three Taos. As long as we can ensure that the three deity thrones don't fall into the hands of the human race, there won't be any problems. As the earthly sovereign finished speaking, a cold smile appeared on his face. The demon emperor glanced at him. You want to eliminate the source of trouble? It's not that I want to eliminate the root of the problem, but for the survival of the myriad races, we have to eliminate the hidden dangers. Hearing earthly sovereign's answer, demon sovereign sneered. He finally understood what the other party meant. Obviously, the earthly sovereign didn't want the human race to obtain the three deity thrones, so he came to cooperate with him. The easiest way to prevent the human race from obtaining the deity position was to eliminate all the powerhouses of the human race who had the potential to break through. As long as they were dead, the deity position naturally couldn't fall into the hands of the human race. After figuring out the crux of the matter, Demon Sovereign smiled faintly. If I remember correctly, the earthly dragons were once allies of the human race. What you're doing now is tantamount to betrayal. We, the earthly dragons, are allies of the human race. How could the demon race not be allies of the human race? Earthly Sovereign sneered. Emperor, you should understand that the so-called allies are only temporary. Moreover, we, the earthly dragons, have submitted to the Emperor of Heaven, not to the human race. Now that the Emperor of Heaven has ruled the myriad races and established the Heaven Court, it can be said that he has unknowingly separated himself from the human race. Then what's wrong with us attacking the human race? Allies. They had never been reliable. The earthly dragons had originally allied with the human race because of Qin Shujian's deterrence. Rather than saying that they had allied with the human race, it was better to say that they had submitted to Qin Shujian. So, Earthly Sovereign did not think that the human race was on the same side as him. And judging from the current situation, the human race was getting more and more powerful in the Heaven Court, and his authority had been weakened a lot. They were both war gods. Not to mention being on par with the monarchs of the five directions. Even if he were to face Xiao Qingfeng, he would still be inferior. Of course, these were just trivial matters. What was really important was that the human race was getting more and more powerful. In the future, if the human race really had the final say in the heavenly court, then the myriad races would have no room to survive. Demon Sovereign did not reply, as if he was thinking. After a while, he asked a question. I still have the same question. Why did you come to me? If it's just to deal with some human race cultivators, with your current strength, it shouldn't be difficult. Or, do you have other plans and want to drag me down with you? After saying that, the atmosphere in the hall suddenly became solemn. Earthly Sovereign looked solemn. Emperor, don't misunderstand. I came to negotiate with you because I hope that in the future there will be immortals who can fight against the human race. Similarly, the human race is now occupying the eastern continent and can recuperate. There are countless powerhouses born in it. It's not easy to get rid of those hidden dangers. Only by combining the powerhouses of the various races can we achieve our goal in the human race's hinterland. To fight against the human race. Whether it was in the open or in the dark, they needed enough power. In the open, they had enough power in the imperial court to veto the human race's proposal. At this time, they needed powerhouses at the level of the imperial emperors of the five directions. And among the imperial emperors of the five directions, the only one who might be dissatisfied with the human race was the Southern Flame Emperor in front of him. Because whether it was the Dog Sovereign or the Soul Protection Sovereign, they had a lot of friendship with the human race. As for Si Hanhai, from what happened last time, Earthly Sovereign was sure that the other party was also on the same side as the human race. As for the words in the dark, it was the same as what he said before. It was not that easy to enter the human race and assassinate them. Now that there were so many powerhouses in the human race, and there was a heavenly rule, no one dared to start a conflict without permission. Therefore, it was destined that the powerhouses at the true immortal level could not make a move, otherwise it would cause a greater disaster. Only the power below the true immortal level could complete this task. No matter what, the demon race was a combination of two races, and their foundation was not low. With one more race joining, they had a higher chance of winning. Hearing Earthly Sovereign's words, the demon emperor fell into deep thought again. He was thinking about the gains and losses of this matter. After a long time, he came back to his senses and looked at Earthly Sovereign in front of him with a faint smile on his face. Happy cooperation. Happy cooperation. Earthly Sovereign also smiled. P.S. I recommend a great new book. You can read the Misty Island game. I can see the hint. Chapter 874. Not long after the void demons were eliminated, the stars outside the extraterritorial battlefield began to tremble. The news that the Star Beast was about to break out of its seal spread like wildfire. Although the Heavenly Court had decided to fight the Star Beasts, most of the cultivators in the extraterritorial battlefield were already prepared to retreat. There was no other way. The weakest Star Beast was a fourth heaven immortal, and the cultivators of the other races did not have the qualifications to fight against it at all. Without breaking through to the true immortal realm, one would be nothing more than an ant in front of the three middle true immortals. Only by breaking through to the true immortal realm, only then would he be able to fight against an existence of this level. Therefore, this time, the Heavenly Court had used their top forces to fight against the Star Beasts. As for the cultivators below the true immortal realm, they did not plan to let them participate in the battle. However, the ordinary cultivators of the myriad races did not participate in the battle, but it did not mean that the heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals of the Heavenly Court would not participate. With the help of the corresponding array formations and cultivation techniques, the strength of more than 100,000 heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals could not be underestimated. I thought that I would be able to live in peace for a few years after destroying the evil void demons. Who would have thought that the Star Beast race would appear again? Truly, one wave after another, there's nothing we can do about it. The Star Beast clan exists to begin with. If our myriad races want to occupy the outer space, we'll have to fight them sooner or later. Sigh, I wonder if the Heavenly Court has a chance of winning. Whether or not we have a chance of winning is another matter. These things are not something we can get involved in. Many cultivators of the 10,000 tribes had complicated emotions after receiving the news. No one was willing to keep fighting. However, they weren't willing to give up the outer realm to the Star Beasts either. Therefore, the Heavenly Court's battle was an exciting event for most of the cultivators of the myriad races. To put it bluntly, right now, the ones fighting the Star Beasts were mainly the experts of the Heavenly Court. It had nothing to do with the ordinary cultivators of the myriad races. The cultivators below the true immortal realm only needed to sit at the back and watch silently. Naturally, no one would refuse such a request. After the news spread, some people simply returned to the Great Thousand World and didn't stay in the extraterritorial battlefield so that they wouldn't be implicated when the war started. There were also some who stayed in the 10,000 races battlefield to see if they had a chance to pick up some scraps. In any great battle, risks and opportunities coexisted. Apart from a small number of cultivators of the myriad races, the majority of the players had this mentality. F***CK, the star beast is about to be born. Needless to say, there's going to be another earth-shaking battle. I heard some people say that when the Emperor of Heaven killed the star beast last time, some people obtained some star beast blood and sold it for a high price. This time, we can't miss this opportunity. It's said that the weakest star beasts are at the middle 3 true immortal realm. This battle will probably be a battle between the top experts. There will be a good show to watch. The players rubbed their palms together, their eyes brimming with excitement. Last time, when Qin Shujian was killing the star beasts, a small number of players had respawned in the foreign battlefields and just happened to be there. When faced with the blood of star beasts at the same time, some players used some ingenious methods to collect the blood and became the beneficiaries of that battle. To the players, anything that happened among the players couldn't be hidden. In addition, the news of Qin Shujian killing a star beast spread like wildfire among the players. This led to the current situation. Almost all the players knew that every part of a star beast was a treasure. While the other players were talking, some of the player teams were already silently making their preparations. The star beasts are powerful. The Heavenly Court might not be a match for them. However, since the Heavenly Court is confident in fighting with the star beasts, it shouldn't be too bad. We have to find the right time to see if we can get some benefits. In a player team, Lu Qinghong turned his head to look at the others and said in a deep voice. In response, the others listened in silence. Moreover, I've received news that the star beast's blood can temper a cultivator's body. If we want to walk the physical sanctification system and transcend the tribulation to become an immortal in the future, we must have a strong physique. Collecting the star beast's blood is of great benefit to us. Moreover, even if we don't need it for the time being, we can trade it with the cultivators of the myriad races. Of course, the other things on the star beasts are also rare treasures. However, with our strength, we don't have the qualifications to touch so much. We can only pick up some star beast blood. Lu Qinghong briefly explained the benefits of the star beasts. Regarding these things, in fact, it had already spread among the players. However, since they were going to take action, it was better to repeat this news. At this stage, there were already Celestials among the players. Although the number of Celestials was still not many because of the cultivation method, at least there were Celestials. As a result, becoming an immortal was not an extravagant hope, especially now that many of the cultivators of the myriad races had already become immortals. In the eyes of the players, they were also a goal and hope. After all, if the NPCs of the boundless world could become immortals, there was no reason why they couldn't. Hearing this, a player nodded. With our current strength, we can indeed only collect some star beast's blood. However, I heard that it's not easy to collect star beast blood. Do you have any other methods? Of course. Lu Qinghong smiled and then looked at Chao Hong. Chao Hong understood and nodded. The most difficult part of collecting star beast's blood is the container. This time, we purchased a batch of containers from the Imperial Astronomer of the Great Zhao. In order to collect this batch of containers, we spent quite a bit of money. However, as long as we collect enough star beast's blood, not only will we not lose money, we will also make a huge profit. As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Qinghong continued, other than the containers, we also collected some other things to temporarily suppress the power of the star beast. I will send them to you one by one later. However, one thing to note is that we cannot forcefully collect the blood of overly powerful star beasts. This is because once the blood of the star beast is too powerful, not only will it not be able to suppress it, even a container will be broken. As far as I know, each container can only hold 1 drop of star beast blood, and it can only be a level for immortal. If it exceeds this limit, the collection will fail. You must be careful. Lu Qinghong repeatedly emphasized the limitations of the containers and the things to take note of. The reason for that was because every single container was extremely expensive. After all, the containers used to collect star beast's blood were comparable to Dao artifacts in terms of level. However, compared to normal divine weapons, Those containers had no other functions and could not be used to fight enemies. They only had one function, to collect things. Because of this, only then would the price of the container be relatively lower. Compared to a divine weapon of the same level, it would be cheaper. However, no matter how cheap it was, to the players, the cost was still high. In order to collect these containers, Lu Qinghong, Chao Hong, and the others had almost emptied their pockets. Chapter 875. After a simple distribution of the containers and the things used to suppress the blood of the star beasts, Lu Qinghong looked at the team and frowned. Why didn't Chen Hao come today? If I remember correctly, he hasn't been here for several days. What's going on? The Chen Hao he was talking about was a player in the team, although he was just a very ordinary member of the team. But in fact, those who were able to join this team were all players who were rather powerful. Hearing that, a player shook his head. I don't know. I've contacted him several times, but there was no reply. I don't know if something happened, or if something happened. Who knows Chen Hao's specific address? Lu Qinghong's heart sank slightly. Then he looked at the others and asked again. Instinctively, he had a bad feeling in his heart. After that, the players in the team were silent for a while. Then one of them said, I know Chen Hao's address. I met him in reality some time ago. After this incident, you go and find out if something happened. Lu Qinghong nodded. After that, he added, recently, there have been a lot of problems in our Tianhuang Great World. I heard that many powerful people have inexplicably encountered all kinds of accidents. They either disappeared directly, were assassinated, or died quietly. You have to be careful and don't have any accidents. When he mentioned the Tianhuang Great World, the hearts of the people in the team sank slightly. They had heard about what Lu Qinghong said, but they had never taken it seriously. But now that he mentioned it, combined with Chen Hao's disappearance, they understood what he meant. You mean Chen Hao might be dead? A female player widened her eyes and opened her mouth slightly. She had a look of disbelief.
He might not be dead.
He might be entangled with something, but we must not take it lightly. Lu Qinghong shook his head. His face was unprecedentedly solemn. It's not the same as before. The game has progressed to this point. Everyone has obtained the qualification to cultivate. Some people may have obtained some kind of evil cultivation method and used it to kill people. It's also possible. All in all, the Tianhuang Great World is becoming more and more unstable. With the recovery of spiritual energy, everyone will enter the era of cultivation. You only need to look at the thousands of races in the 4 major continents to know what will happen. In the past, he didn't have any cultivation techniques and didn't cultivate. Even so, there were still many problems. Now that there was a cultivation method to cultivate, it was even more difficult to maintain order. In Lu Qinghong's opinion, what was happening in the Tianhuang macro world right now represented an unstable factor. Who knew when he would be swept into it? At this moment, what he needed to do was to continuously increase his strength. As long as he was strong enough, no one would be able to threaten him. I've already exchanged for a celestial realm cultivation technique in the Heavenly Alliance. As long as I increase my realm in the game, my realm in reality will also improve by leaps and bounds. At that time, who can threaten me? Lu Qinghong thought of something, and a faint light flashed in his eyes. As for the Sky Alliance, the more he delved into it, the more he understood the mysteries behind it. The things that could be obtained in Skydream were things that couldn't be obtained even in the game. For example, Divine Realm Cultivation Techniques. In the game, the Divine Realm Cultivation Techniques were controlled by the various races and would not be leaked easily. However, Lu Qinghong obtained the Divine Realm Cultivation Techniques through the Heavenly Alliance. Not only that, he also found that the cultivation techniques in reality could be used in the game. In this way, the restriction of not having Divine Realm Cultivation Techniques in the game was easily solved. Lu Qinghong believed that many people who joined the Heavenly Alliance were clear about this. However, until now, no news had been leaked. It was obvious that those who knew the truth had decided to conceal this information from the public. After all, Once this news was leaked, the number of people entering the Heavenly Alliance would definitely increase greatly.
Similarly,
If a large number of people obtained high-level cultivation techniques in the Heavenly Alliance and then entered the game to cultivate and break through, their strength would soar to a great extent. At that time, what qualifications did they have to stand out? Therefore, everyone tacitly concealed the news until the day they couldn't hide it anymore. Even if that day really came, they could be one step ahead of others and break through to a higher realm. They could be considered to have completely separated themselves from the masses. The other people in the Heavenly Alliance had the same idea. Lu Qinghong also had the same idea. Regarding this, the other people in the team naturally didn't understand his inner thoughts. Chao Hong on the side nodded. Brother Lu's news is true. I also asked someone to inquire about it, and it's basically confirmed. You have to be careful. If you find anything wrong, you can send us a message. Up to now, there have been quite a number of experts who have met with accidents. Not long ago, an expert in the 5th level of the spiritual martial realm died at home. He was killed by one blow. 5th level of the spiritual martial realm. Hiss. The other players sucked in a breath of cold air. In the great wide world, the 5th level of the spiritual martial realm was trash. However, in the Tianhuang Great World, the 5th level of the spiritual martial realm was a rare expert. Even such a powerhouse was killed in a single blow.
suddenly,
A lot of pressure appeared in the hearts of the several people. Lu Qingqing, who was standing on the side, couldn't help but lean towards Lu Qinghong. Seeing this, Lu Qinghong didn't continue this topic. I'm just reminding you. After this matter, go to Chun Hao's place to take a look. There are so many people in the Tianhuang Great World. It's normal for some to die every day. But still, don't be too careless. As for the rest, we'll talk about it later. Right now, collecting the blood of the star beasts was still the priority. Not to mention other things, at least they had to break even. If they didn't succeed, Lu Qinghong estimated that he had worked for nothing these past few years. Hearing that, the other players also calmed down a little. At this moment, most of the players were ready. Some of the myriad race cultivators still stayed in the extraterritorial battlefield. The rest of the myriad race cultivators retreated to the great wide world in an orderly manner. In a short period of time, the extraterritorial battlefield, which was originally packed with people, was instantly emptied. At the location of the Heaven and Earth Passage, the void shook slightly. One after another, the immortals from the Heavenly Court walked out of the passage and entered the extraterritorial battlefield. After the immortals walked out, a large number of troops followed behind the immortals. Every soldier wore silver-white armor and held a silver-white spear in their hands. A murderous aura quietly filled the air. When they saw the army, the expressions of many experts changed slightly. Heavenly soldiers. Heavenly generals. Chapter 876. Heavenly soldiers. Heavenly generals. Ever since the Heavenly Court had selected heavenly soldiers and generals, many experts had been very curious about them. They wanted to take a look as well. What was the use of the Heavenly Court selecting so many experts after all? Or, what could those experts gain from entering the Heavenly Court? The heavenly soldiers and generals had played a role in the battle against the demons of the void, but seriously speaking, they hadn't been very useful. Because the Heavenly Court at that time had crushed the demons of the void in terms of strength. The demons of the void couldn't compare to the star beast's strength. Once the two sides started fighting, it would definitely be a tragic scene. These experts wanted to see just how powerful the so-called celestial soldiers and celestial generals were. Was it really as the rumors said? Was it really a powerful method of the Heavenly Court? At this moment, the stars were emitting strong waves, as if a powerful existence was madly attacking from within. Looking at the waves of energy, many immortals and gods looked very serious. The aura is very strong. I'm afraid the star beasts born inside are not as simple as 4-level immortals. So what if they're strong? The Heavenly Court isn't to be trifled with. We must kill the star beasts in this battle. That's right, not every immortal and god didn't want to fight, because if there were those who didn't want to fight, there would naturally be those who wanted to fight. Emperor Xiao looked at the many stars in front of him, then fixed his gaze on a certain spot in the void. "For gods of war, have the heavenly soldiers set up the formation. Judging from the current situation, the star beasts will be born at a certain time. We only need to kill the star beasts that are born first, then the problem will be solved. If I'm not wrong, the star beasts on those planets will be the first to break out of their seals." With that, Emperor Zhao pointed at a few stars. Compared to the rest of the stars, those stars weren't considered small either. They were only average. Like the other stars, they were shaking violently. Those stars were also trembling violently. The star beasts sealed within them were attacking them unceasingly. He was certain. The star beasts on these planets would be the ones that would break the seal the fastest among all the planets. Hearing that, the four gods of war led by Xiao Qingfeng didn't hesitate and immediately gave the order. The heavenly general took the lead. Hundreds of thousands of celestial soldiers stepped out, divided into 4 groups, and surrounded the star. It was only the moment they arrived. The heavenly soldiers formed a mysterious military formation. The military formation looked sloppy and ordinary, but in the eyes of the array formation masters, their expressions changed abruptly. This military formation seems a little different. In the Outerium battlefield, Feng Xinglan, who had already attained the limits of the Heaven Realm, was currently standing at a certain place as he looked at the military formation that had surrounded Xingchen, and his calm expression had already undergone quite a bit of change. Many years ago, he had already reached the 2nd realm of Array Grandmaster. Although he hadn't broken through to the 3rd realm yet, he was already on the verge of breaking through. It could be said that Feng Xinglan admitted that even if he was not the number 1 Array Formation Grandmaster of the human race, it was absolutely impossible for anyone to suppress him. Of course, that Emperor of Heaven who had founded the Heavenly Court was excluded. As such, his understanding of Array Dao had also reached a very profound level. But even so, however, in Feng Xinglan's eyes, he realized that he still couldn't see through the profundity of the military formation formed by the heavenly soldiers. When he looked at it seriously, he even had the illusion that his soul was deeply trapped in it. For a moment, Feng Xinglan was stunned on the spot and only regained his senses after a long time. His body involuntarily took 2 steps back, and his eyes revealed a look of shock. He realized the military formation formed by the heavenly soldiers was much more terrifying than he had imagined. Indeed, at first glance, anyone would be able to tell that the way the celestial soldiers surrounded the star was a military array formation. However, only an array formation grandmaster would be able to see some clues from the array formation. But those who could see this clue had only just begun. Until now, only then did Feng Xinglan realize that the military formation formed by the 4 teams of heavenly soldiers, in fact, was an even more profound and vast complete formation when combined together. In other words, the military formation in front of him could be seen as 4 different military formations, and it could also be seen as a complete formation. However, because the distance between the formations was not small, even Feng Xinglan couldn't detect it for a moment. When he observed it carefully, he discovered some clues. However, even so, he couldn't see too many things. Because the more he studied, the more he could discover the profoundness within. Even his soul had the symbol of leaving his body. Feng Xinglan was sure to be able to study this formation. It was definitely not something an array formation grandmaster could do. In the entire heavenly courts, or rather, in the entire great wide world, there was only one person who was qualified to set up such a formation. The Emperor of Heaven. This formation definitely came from the Emperor of Heaven. An urge surged in Feng Xinglan's heart, an urge to study this formation. He had a premonition as long as he could study a little bit, he would definitely be able to advance to the 3rd realm. When the time came, he would be qualified to enter the heavenly courts and accept the deity position. Once he accepted the deity position, Feng Xinglan was confident that he would take this opportunity to peek into the realm above the 3rd realm. His own cultivation would also be able to break away from the barrier of the heavenly humans and enter the supreme realm of perfected immortals. Thinking of all the benefits, Feng Xinglan became more and more excited. However, he also understood that if he wanted to study this formation, he couldn't do it just by thinking about it. Needless to say, the heavenly soldier formation in front of him must be a top secret of the heavenly courts. Not everyone could comprehend it, unless he had the opportunity to meet the Emperor of Heaven in person and then ask the Emperor of Heaven to teach him. If it was for the sake of the fact that they both belonged to the Qianyuan sacred ground in the past, the other party might teach him extra. But there was also a problem here. How could he meet the Emperor of Heaven? Ever since Qin Shujian became the Emperor of Heaven, he had been living in the depths of the heavenly courts. Other people who were not immortals of the heavenly courts were not qualified to enter the heavenly courts at all. And even if they became immortals, not everyone could directly meet the Emperor of Heaven. It wasn't that easy to do this. Just as many thoughts surfaced in Fang Xinglan's mind, his heart suddenly skipped a beat. He had a bad premonition. It quietly emerged from the depths of his heart. Suddenly, Fang Xinglan became vigilant. When he looked around, there were only some cultivators, but he didn't find any problems. He didn't dare to think too much in his heart. He directly withdrew from the extraterritorial battlefield and headed towards the passage of heaven and earth. The warning in his heart made him certain that someone wanted to harm him. But without evidence, Fang Xinglan couldn't guess too much. Right now, he could only return to the Qianyuan sacred ground first to think about some things carefully. Chapter 877. Fang Xinglan quietly retreated. From the beginning to the end, he had raised his vigilance to an extremely high level. There was no other way. Without clear information and knowing who was going to harm him, Fang Xinglan didn't dare to relax at all. Originally, the immortals and gods of the heavenly court existed in the extraterritorial battlefield, so it was safer to stay there. But next, the heavenly court was about to start a war with the star beasts, and those immortals and gods probably wouldn't have time to notice him. When the time came, the situation would be chaotic, and any conspiracy against him would be just right. Therefore, only by returning to the Qianyuan sacred ground could he have enough protection.
To put it bluntly,
now that the myriad clans were calm on the surface, the true immortals of the various clans couldn't make a move without permission. With the strength of the Qianyuan sacred ground, as long as it wasn't a true immortal, other troubles were not trouble. Fang Xinglan retreated very quickly. When he left, some cultivators in the extraterritorial battlefield also quietly left. Now, all the cultivators' attention was on the star and the heavenly court, and they didn't pay much attention to the movements of the other cultivators. Moreover,
it was normal for people to leave at this time.
After all, a great battle was about to break out later, and who knew what would happen? At this moment, the vibration of the star intensified. All of a sudden, the light on the star dimmed, and cracks appeared all over the huge star. Then, it shattered with a loud bang. Boom! The star shattered, and countless fragments flew in all directions, cutting through the void along the way. The heavenly soldiers besieging the star were already prepared. When the fragments came, all the celestial soldiers had a dense light flickering on their bodies, blocking all the fragments. At the same time, when the star shattered, a ferocious and berserk aura suddenly erupted. A star beast that was 1,000,000 feet tall, covered in scales, appeared with a roar. 10-directional immortal slaying formation. Rise. A heavenly general shouted angrily, and the formation formed by the heavenly soldiers suddenly moved, and the originally calm void was suddenly filled with a murderous aura. Boom! The formation was activated, and a dense and mysterious light flashed, and the phantom of a supreme powerhouse condensed into the world. The phantom of the powerhouse was 1,000,000 feet tall, and its specific appearance couldn't be seen clearly. However, it held a weapon that looked like a long spear, and as it waved, it cut through the void and blasted toward the star beast. The star beast that had broken out of its seal sensed the danger. It also threw a punch, which collided fiercely with the spear.
Bang!
The void cracked, and violent fluctuations swept out. The shadow of the powerhouse did not retreat. He waved his spear and launched another attack. The immortals and gods who were watching the battle were all shocked as they watched the illusory figure of the expert fighting with the star beast. They could all see it. The newly born star beast was not weak. It was at least a middle third-tier true immortal, and it was definitely not as simple as a fourth-tier true immortal. Many immortals and gods had never seen the military formations cultivated by the heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals. Now that he had seen it with his own eyes, naturally, he was not used to it. An immortal god turned to look at Xiao Qingfeng and asked, "Eastern War God, do you know the origin of the powerhouses created by the heavenly army formation?" Any illusory figure of an expert could not be created out of thin air. As long as there was such a method, it was 100% created based on the form of some ancient expert. As such, that illusory figure of an expert must have a background. Xiao Qingfeng could not help but shake his head. "I don't know either. I can't see the appearance of the illusory figure clearly. The weapon in his hand looks a little like a spear, but it's different from the traditional spear. In my memory, I've never heard of an expert using such a strange weapon." He went through the memories in his mind. He was also a little confused. Since ancient times, there had been many experts born. However, any famous expert would have some symbols that were passed down to the world. However, in Xiao Qingfeng's knowledge, there was no match at all. Considering Qin Shujian's identity, he could not help but guess that the formation created by the military formation was very likely an ancient expert from another epoch. After all, no matter how vast his knowledge was, it was only limited by the current epoch. Xiao Qingfeng did not know anything about the other eras outside of this era. "That's a three-pointed double-edged sword." At this moment, a calm voice sounded from the side. The other immortals and gods could not help but turn to look. When they saw that the person who spoke was Niu Dali, their expressions turned serious. Things were different now. After understanding Niu Dali's strength, no immortals and gods in the heavenly court dared to be disrespectful to him. They all had great respect for this upper-level true immortal expert. Xiao Qingfeng looked confused. Three-pointed double-edged sword?
What kind of weapon is that?
It was the first time he had heard of this name. However, based on Niu Dali's words, he was almost certain that the illusory figure created by the formation was not from this epoch. Hearing Xiao Qingfeng's question, the other immortals and gods in the heavenly court also perked up their ears to listen carefully. They were also very curious about this. Noticing the changes in their hearts, Niu Dali coughed softly and explained, "The three-pointed double-edged sword is a weapon of an expert from the first epoch. Although that expert was not in the Dao fruit realm, he was a half-step Dao fruit realm existence. If I'm not wrong, the formation that Emperor Qin gave us borrowed power from that existence." Hearing this, some people suddenly realized, an expert from the first epoch. No wonder. However, there were still some people who had new doubts in their hearts. "Senior, you're talking about borrowing power. Could it be that the expert didn't die?" "Of course he died, when the epoch was destroyed." Niu Dali shook his head. Then he explained, "Strictly speaking, no matter which era it is, they all exist under the same universe. Any expert that has been born will leave a mark of power in the universe, regardless of the era they are from. As long as you can capture the mark of power, you can borrow the power of a past expert. However, not everyone can capture the mark of power, especially across epochs. The difficulty is shocking. Other than capturing the power imprint, the rest was to use some kind of method to trigger the power imprint to descend, thereby achieving the level of borrowing power. Formations are the most commonly used method. Emperor Qin's attainments in the Tao of formations have indeed reached a shocking level, so he can use the military formations he created to draw the mark of power of past experts. Niu Dali could not stop once he started talking. After being bored for so many years, he was almost bored out of his wits. He would not let go of the rare opportunity to show his face. Niu Dali was especially satisfied when he noticed the admiring looks on the immortals' faces after hearing his explanation. Chapter 878. Niu Dali's explanation only took up a little time. From the moment the astral beast broke out of the seal to the moment the two sides started fighting, only 2 or 3 rounds had passed. After he finished his explanation, Emperor Zhao said, "Gods, take the opportunity to kill the astral beast while it's trapped by the array. Don't delay until other astral beasts break out of the seal." As soon as he finished speaking, he made the first move. He took a step forward and unleashed his imperial aura. When he struck out with his palm, the energy from his palm crushed the endless void and pressed toward the astral beast that was fighting with the shadow of the powerhouse. Rumble. There was a huge commotion, and surging waves of air swept out. When Emperor Zhao made his move, the immortals and gods of the heavenly court did not hesitate. Instantly, many powerhouses attacked and cooperated with the heavenly army's array to kill a few astral beasts that broke out of the seal.
Soon,
One astral beast was killed by Emperor Zhao and the heavenly army. The astral beast that was born was only a 5th-level immortal. Even in a one-on-one battle, Emperor Zhao was confident that he could suppress it, let alone with the help of the heavenly army's array. The astral beast was killed. Immediately, a large amount of blood flowed out. The cultivators who were still in the extraterritorial battlefield became excited when they saw this scene. What was their purpose in staying in the extraterritorial battlefield? It was nothing more than waiting for the start of the war and taking the opportunity to reap some benefits. The only benefit they could reap. It was the blood that flowed out when the astral beast was injured or killed. Don't move. Wait for me to collect it first. If I succeed, you can come back. Lu Qinghong, who had been waiting for a long time, saw the astral beast's blood flowing over, and his eyes lit up. Without any hesitation, he rose into the air and approached the astral beast's blood.
boom.
A powerful and vast pressure emanated from the astral beast's blood, as if it could crush the sky and the void. In an instant, Lu Qinghong's body collapsed. A look of horror appeared in his eyes. He did not dare to hesitate at all. He immediately took out a jade talisman from his storage ring and crushed it.
Buzz.
The jade talisman shattered, and a faint blue light appeared, relieving the pressure from the astral beast's blood. Although the pressure was still strong, it was not as strong as before, when he was almost crushed to death. Without truly touching the blood of a true immortal, there was no way to understand its power. Looking at the blood that was like a river of stars in front of him, Lu Qinghong had no way of determining whether the star beast's blood was at the level of a 4th heaven immortal. He took out another jade talisman and crushed it. The light turned into a huge hand and grabbed at the blood. Immediately, a drop of blood was caught and brought back. Seeing this, Lu Qinghong took out a jade bottle and carefully collected the drop of blood. The blood fell into the jade bottle.
Bang.
The jade bottle seemed to have encountered an unbearable weight and instantly shattered. The moment the jade bottle shattered, Lu Qinghong hurriedly retreated. The drop of star beast blood that he had collected had already fallen out of the broken bottle and into the air. Lu Qinghong's face darkened. The shattering of the jade bottle proved that the amount of astral beast blood collected had exceeded the limit of what the jade bottle could withstand. In other words, that fallen star beast was definitely not as simple as a 4th heaven immortal. Even though he had the intention of making a trial and error from the beginning, when he really lost a jade bottle, he still felt heartache. The value of a jade bottle. But it was not low at all. After taking a few deep breaths, Lu Qinghong directly retreated. The fallen star beast is not a 4th heaven immortal. Don't act rashly for the time being. Wait for the next star beast. The remaining players in the team all suppressed the impulse in their hearts. Very soon, another star beast was killed. A 1,000,000-feet-tall corpse of the star beast fell. Blood gushed out like a river bursting a dam, causing a huge roar in the void. Immediately, Lu Qinghong stepped forward again and tried to collect the blood of the star beast. After the blood flowed into the jade bottle, his gaze was fixed on the jade bottle. He saw the jade bottle vibrate violently, as if something was violently colliding with it. But no matter how violent the collision was, there was no way to break the jade bottle. Seeing this, Lu Qinghong was relieved. The jade bottle did not break immediately, which proved that the blood of the star beast was within the acceptable range. In other words, the strength of the killed star beast was only around a 4th heaven immortal. He kept the jade bottle. He turned around and looked at the people in the team. Quick, collect the blood. Okay. Hearing this, the rest of the people flew forward and collected the blood like a gourd. On the other side, after killing a few star beasts, the rest of the stars became even more violent.
Boom. Boom.
Several stars exploded, and the star beasts sealed in them were born. A violent aura swept in all directions. Roar! An earth-shattering roar resounded through the void. Emperor Zhao's face was unprecedentedly solemn. Then, he looked at Chu Kuangtu and Niodali. Please help me kill the star beasts. No problem. Neither of them refused. Chu Kuangtu took a step forward and unsheathed the long saber on his back. The cold saber light scattered like moonlight, easily cutting through the void and cutting off the arm of a star beast. At the same time, Niodali was not weaker than others. He revealed his true body and suppressed a star beast. Niodali's hooves landed. The star beast's body exploded, and it was almost trampled to death. In terms of realm, both of them were seventh heaven immortals. They were in the upper three true immortals. In terms of real strength, the weakest one was comparable to an eighth heaven immortal. The strongest star beast that had appeared was only a fifth heaven immortal. How could it be qualified to compete with them?
As soon as they attacked,
the two star beasts were seriously injured and were almost crushed to death. At the sight of this scene, many experts were shocked. Not everyone had seen the true strength of the two. Now that they saw what was happening in front of them, they were inevitably shocked. At this moment, Chu Kuangtu had already killed the star beast. Although he was a seventh heaven immortal, he could even fight against a ninth heaven immortal. Killing a fifth heaven immortal star beast was as easy as blowing off dust. After killing the star beast, Chu Kuangtu immediately aimed at the next target. When the battle began, the rioting stars had reached a limit one after another. Not long after, many more stars exploded, and the star beasts sealed in them completely walked out. Boom! The aura of many star beasts gathered together. It was enough to stir up the void. The expressions of all the experts who sensed that aura changed. Emperor Zhao shouted angrily, "Those below the true immortal realm who are not from the heavenly court, return to the great thousand world." This sentence. It was clearly telling those cultivators who were picking up scraps in the extraterritorial battlefield that the heavenly court might not be able to resist now that all the star beasts had broken out of the seal. If they wanted to live, they had to go back quickly. Otherwise, they could not blame others if they died. Chapter 879.
Until now,
Nearly a third of all the stars had been unsealed. Dozens of star beasts, the weakest of which was a middle three-layer true immortal, had appeared. The aura gathered together was enough to make even upper three-layer true immortals pale in fright. Apart from that, the remaining stars were also shattering one after another. One after another, the star beasts woke up from their hibernation. Just the aura they emitted made the endless void cry out as if it couldn't withstand such pressure. The cultivators of the 10,000 races in the extraterritorial battlefield. When those star beasts broke through the seal, they had already sensed the suffocating aura. Now, after hearing Emperor Zhao's words, their expressions changed, and then they rushed toward the passage of heaven and earth.
soon.
More than half of the people in the extraterritorial battlefield were gone. "Brother, should we leave?" Qiu Qingqing grabbed the jade bottle in her hand and looked at Lu Qinghong nervously. "Let's go." Lu Qinghong made a decision without hesitation. He had collected almost all the star beast blood that he needed. Even if there were a few empty jade bottles, he wouldn't feel the pinch. The current situation was obviously out of the control of the heavenly court. Of course, it was also possible that the situation was still under the control of the heavenly court, and the heavenly court's next plan was to give up the extraterritorial battlefield. If they didn't leave now, they wouldn't be able to leave anymore. If they were killed and revived, they would lose a level. If they were unlucky and something important was dropped, they wouldn't even have time to cry. According to the current situation, retreating now was the most appropriate thing to do. Hearing that, the players in the team didn't object. Instead, they followed Lu Qinghong and retreated. At the same time, other players also retreated. However,
There were still some people who didn't leave.
they chose to stay and watch. Emperor Zhao could naturally sense the changes in the extraterritorial battlefield. He couldn't care less about it, since those people didn't leave. Then they couldn't blame anyone if they died later. Now, he was already prepared to retreat back to the Great Thousand World if the Heavenly Court couldn't win. As for the extraterritorial battlefield, he could only give up then. Emperor Zhao's vast aura surged as he borrowed Nameless from Xiao Qingfeng. Holding Zhu Bing, his aura was unparalleled. All immortals and deities. Just as Emperor Zhao was about to give the order, the void in front of him shattered, and a person stepped out, appearing in front of all the immortals and gods. Immediately after, a surge of aura soared into the sky, contending with the aura of the many star beasts. Surprisingly, it was not at a disadvantage at all. Emperor of Heaven. Seeing who it was, Emperor Zhao felt relieved. The Emperor of Heaven is back. Greetings, Emperor of Heaven. The immortals and gods of the celestial court heaved sighs of relief. It was as if a huge mountain that had been pressing on his shoulders had been moved away by someone else.
To them,
The Emperor of Heaven was their spiritual support. As long as he existed, all problems would not be a problem.
yes.
Qin Shujian waved his hand slightly. His gaze had been fixed on the star beasts that had broken out of their seals. Emperor Zhao took a step forward. With the return of the Emperor of Heaven, our chances of exterminating the Star Beast clan will be greater. Qin Shujian could kill half-step Dao fruit existences. His strength was already very strong. Even if he could not deal with all the Star Beasts, he could still greatly increase the Heavenly Court strength. One had to know. He was also someone who had received the legacy of the Heavenly Court. He could understand how powerful half-step Dao fruit existences were. Don't interfere in the affairs of the Star Beast clan. Leave all the Star Beasts to me, Qin Shujian said indifferently.
Hearing that,
Emperor Zhao was stunned. The other immortals and gods had similar expressions when they heard that. What did he mean? He wanted to deal with all the Star Beasts by himself? One of the immortals could not help but ask, Emperor of Heaven, do you mean you want to deal with all the Star Beasts by yourself? The way he spoke was very careful, for fear of angering the other party. Do I need to repeat myself? Qin Shujian glanced at him indifferently. His calm and normal gaze made the immortal's heart turn cold. All of a sudden, he did not dare to say another word. Even the other immortals and gods did not know what to say now. Chu Kuangtu frowned slightly. Emperor Qin, are you sure you can deal with them? The star beasts that have been born are not weak. Others were afraid of Qin Shujian and did not dare to ask too many questions, but he did not have such scruples. There were hundreds of star beasts that had been born. There were even some star beasts in the upper third level of the perfected immortal realm. Although the other party had killed a half-step Dao fruit beast emperor, he had not reached the Dao fruit realm. It was not that easy to ignore the number of perfected immortals. Even if Chu Kuangtu recovered his strength to the half-step Dao fruit realm, he was not 100% confident that he could deal with all the star beasts. He was shocked by the strength of the Star Beast clan.
he was also shocked.
Qin Shujian smiled faintly. It's not a big problem. Blade Master and Brother Niu, please don't interfere.
Seeing that,
Chu Kuangtu could only retreat. As for Niu Dali, he also retreated to the Heavenly Court's camp. Since the other party insisted, they could not say anything. Chu Kuangtu also had some speculations about Qin Shujian's confidence. After all, if he wanted to rely on his own strength to deal with the Star Beast clan, unless he was in existence at the Dao fruit level, he could only use other means. For example, Zhou Tian's star map in the other party's hand. However, Chu Kuangtu had seen the power of Zhou Tian's star map. Although it was very powerful, it was impossible for him to do that. Unless, did the other party have a backup plan? While thinking, Chu Kuangtu put the long saber in his hand back into the sheath. The heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals who were forming the military formation also withdrew under the order of the 4 war gods. In less than 15 minutes, the situation of the battle had completely disappeared. Those star beasts that had been born also sensed the terrifying aura of Qin Shu Jian and did not dare to act rashly for a while. In the endless void, one star beast after another broke out of the seal. The more star beasts that were born, the more irritable the star beast clan became. There was a faint tendency to attack Qin Shu Jian. In front of all the star beasts, Qin Shu Jian stood with his hands behind his back. Dressed in a cyan robe, he seemed to be aloof from the world. His aura was as vast as the abyss, contending with the aura of all the star beasts. He was not at a disadvantage at all. As for the original Heavenly Court experts, they had all retreated to the rear. Their eyes wandered back and forth between the Star Beast clan and Qin Shu Jian with a rather complicated look on their faces. No one had expected that. It was a good war, but it ended up like this. Many immortals and deities were not very confident that Qin Shu Jian would be able to fight against the Star Beast clan by himself. However, no one dared to say anything more. When the last star shattered, the momentum of the Star Beast clan finally reached its peak. The many star beasts that were hesitating in the void let out earth-shattering roars at this time and attacked Qin Shu Jian. P.S. Public number, fleeting white horse. Chapter 880. Among all the star beasts that appeared, the weakest was a 4th-level immortal. Among them, there was no lack of 3rd-level true immortals. When they all attacked in an instant, their momentum was so great that it was as if they could destroy the sky. Qin Shu Jian's expression didn't change. With a flip of his hand, a small formation map appeared in his hand.
Then,
the formation map in his palm slowly rose a little and spun on the spot. Go, Qin Shu Jian said softly, and the formation map immediately flew away. As soon as Zhou Tian's star map flew up, it had already become infinitely large in the air and immediately suppressed the star beasts. Rumble. The moment the formation map fell, it was as if a world was born. All the star beasts were caught off guard and were completely swallowed by the formation. In the eyes of the Heavenly Court and the experts of the 10,000 races, they could only see Zhou Tian's star map fly up, and then an endless river of stars drooped down and drowned the star beasts. In an instant, those powerful star beasts had already disappeared. In the hundreds of millions of miles of void, only the river of stars wandered, reflecting a dazzling brilliance. What's that? A blueprint, and it swallowed all the star beasts. It doesn't seem to be an ordinary blueprint, but a formation map. Could it be that the Emperor of Heaven has set up some powerful formation? Are there any experts who are proficient in formations who can see the mystery of it? In the extraterritorial battlefield, the remaining cultivators of the 10,000 races were all looking at the brilliant river of stars in shock. They didn't understand formations, or only knew a little, but they didn't dabble in it at all. Naturally, they couldn't see the power of Zhou Tian's star array. Hearing that, some of the array formation experts looked at the galaxy for a long time and finally shook their heads. I can't see anything at all. It should be an array formation. However, the array formation set up by the Celestial Emperor has already surpassed ordinary array formations. If you want to comprehend some of its mysteries, I'm afraid you'll need a Grandmaster-level formation master. In the eyes of these people, the mystery of Zhou Tian's star array had long exceeded the limits of their understanding. Furthermore, these people didn't know what level of formation Zhou Tian's great astral formation was. Even though formations were gradually becoming more and more popular among the myriad races. But compared to the Tao of cultivation, array formations were still far inferior. There were only a handful of people who could reach the first level of the Master Realm. Therefore, in their eyes, only Grandmasters would be able to see through the mysteries of Zhou Tian's great astral beast formation.
Puffed.
A disdainful sneer sounded from the crowd. Immediately, many people looked towards the source of the sound. A middle-aged man in a black shirt shook his head and said, "How can it be so easy to understand the formation set up by the Emperor of Heaven? I'm sure that no one in the first or second stage of the Supreme Power Realm can see through it." Even if it was a third realm cultivator, it was very likely that it would be the same. You think too highly of Array Dao grandmasters and underestimate the Emperor of Heaven's attainments in Array Dao. You must know that long before Array Dao became popular, the Emperor of Heaven's Array Dao had already reached an unfathomable level. Now that he has trapped so many star beasts with just one formation, it is at least a Saint Realm formation, and it is very likely that it has surpassed the Saint Realm. Hearing this, many people came to a realization. Indeed, they had all neglected one thing, and that was the strength of the star beasts. At present, the weakest star beast that had appeared was at the 4th level of the immortal realm. What right did a Grandmaster Realm formation have to trap such an existence? Not to mention, there were as many as hundreds of star beasts of such a realm. Only the legendary Saint Realm formation could achieve such a level. That's right. The 3rd stage of the Master Realm is only comparable to a mighty figure. Only saints can reach the level of a true immortal. If you want to do what the Emperor of Heaven did, it is definitely not something an ordinary Saint Realm can do. Someone nodded in agreement. If a Saint Realm Array Dao expert was equal to a true immortal, then Qin Shujian's Array Dao cultivation would at least be at the peak of the Saint Realm, or even surpass the Saint Realm. In the extraterritorial battlefield, the experts of all races were shocked. The immortals and gods of the heavenly court, who had completely become bystanders, did not look any better. What a powerful Array Dao! Xiao Qingfeng looked at the dazzling Milky Way and took a deep breath in his heart. With his vision, he could not see any clues of the Array Dao at all. In his perception, only the Milky Way was vast and deep, and there was no way to guess its depth. One must know, Xiao Qingfeng's current realm had already reached the 5th level of the immortal realm. Combined with the foundation of his previous life, although there was no way to compare with a 3rd level of the true immortal realm, there was no problem for him to match a 6th level of the immortal realm. Even so, he still had no way to perceive the depth of the Milky Way. For a moment, Xiao Qingfeng's heart was filled with shock. The sky-breaking halberd in his hand vibrated slightly, and a sound that others could not hear was transmitted into his mind. This Array Dao looks similar to the Array Dao used by the heavenly court to draw in the power of the stars. Could it be the same Array Dao? Xiao Qingfeng's expression froze. If the sky-breaking halberd had not mentioned it, he would not have noticed it. Now that the sky-breaking halberd had reminded him, Xiao Qingfeng realized that there were some similarities. It was just that his talent in Array Dao was really average, and there was no way to see too many clues. However, Xiao Qingfeng was almost certain. Even if the Milky Way in front of him was not the Array Dao of the heavenly court, there must be some connection between them. However, he really did not have much skill in Array Dao, and could only look at it now. Just as Xiao Qingfeng was feeling shocked, the other immortals and gods of the heavenly court were not much better. The dazzling Milky Way. It gave them the feeling that it was as vast as an abyss, and it was incompatible with the desolate void in front of them, as if it was a new world. All of a sudden, the sky-breaking emperor sighed. The Milky Way looks dazzling and gorgeous, but it is also full of murderous intent. Perhaps this is what the void outside of the outer realm should be like. That feeling came out of nowhere. When the words left his mouth, he was slightly stunned, wondering why he would say such a thing. However, after saying that, the sky-breaking emperor carefully thought about it and felt that there was nothing wrong with it. Compared to the desolate and colorless void that seemed to be full of danger, the dazzling Milky Way in front of them was more likable. Some immortals and gods heard that. They also nodded in agreement. Among all the experts, only Chu Kuangtu and Niu Dali could see the clues of the Array Dao. After all, the two of them had seen the Zhou Tian Great Stars Array. When he saw the Milky Way appear, Niu Dali suddenly exclaimed, "The Qin Emperor's Zhou Tian star map is even more powerful than before." Although the heavenly cycle star formation that was laid out is still somewhat inferior to the first epochs, it already has some essence. Chapter 881. The Zhou Tian Great Stars Formation of the First Era. Out of all the times that the heavenly cycle star formation appeared, it could be said to be the pinnacle existence. Because of this, the heavenly cycle star formation setup in the other epochs could not compare to the heavenly cycle star formation in the first epoch. The reason was, the number of powerful cultivators who set up the formation was one of the problems. The treasure used as the eye of the formation was another. After all, the Zhou-Tian Great Stars formation of the First Era had a connate cardinal treasure as the eye of the formation. It was also personally set up by powerful cultivators. Even Dao fruit-level cultivators might perish if they fell into it. As a powerful cultivator of the First Era, how could Niu Dali not have seen the real Zhou-Tian Great Stars formation? The galaxy in front of him. There was still a big gap between it and the First Era's pinnacle formation. However, it was not much weaker than the Zhou-Tian Great Stars formation of the other eras. He could tell. Although the Zhou-Tian star map in Qin Shujian's hands had not broken through to the level of a connate cardinal treasure, it was close to that level. It is possible to set up the Zhou-Tian Great Stars formation perfectly with one person's strength. It is a pity that the Dao Master will not be able to see it. Niu Dali thought of something and sighed again. Hearing this, Chu Kuangtu was silent. He knew who the Dao Master that Niu Dali mentioned was. The Taiqing Holy Man. If the Weapon Emperor could only be called the top blacksmith of the Second Era, it was because of the existence of the Taiqing Holy Man. When it came to blacksmithing, the Taiqing Holy Man was the real pinnacle. It could even be said that the origin of blacksmithing originated from the Taiqing Holy Man. The idea of the Zhou-Tian star map also came from the Taiqing Holy Man. It was a pity. Although the Zhou-Tian star map was born in the previous eras, it was still far from reaching the peak of the First Era. No matter which era it was in, it was very difficult to forge a connate cardinal treasure level weapon. At least until now. The birth of any connate treasure was nurtured by nature and nurtured by nature. However, the Zhou-Tian star map in Qin Shujian's hands was already qualified to be upgraded to a primordial cardinal treasure. Thinking of this, Chu Kuangtu also sighed. This era is very different from the other eras. The Weapon Emperor once said that primordial cardinal treasures can't be artificially forged because even he hasn't really refined a primordial cardinal treasure. From the looks of it now, it won't be long before a divine weapon comparable to a primordial cardinal treasure appears. Zhou-Tian star map. The way to improve was very simple. At his level, he basically knew everything. But the problem was, if he wanted to upgrade Zhou-Tian star map, he would need a large number of star cores. Even in the First Era, star cores were extremely rare and precious. Even if all the stars were destroyed, it would be impossible to obtain too many star cores. There was no star core. There was no way to improve Zhou-Tian's star map. This was the most difficult thing. At this time, Zhou-Tian's great star formation was completely set up. Qin Shujian took out the Tiandi Bell and the heaven-reaching mirror and suppressed them at the position of the formation eye. Immediately, the formation was activated. All the stars in the sky shone. One by one, star beasts appeared from the stars and attacked the star beasts trapped by the formation. All the star beasts that appeared. Their strength had grown from the original level 4 immortals to the current level 6 immortals. In other words, just by relying on the massive heavenly cycle star formation, it could manifest 365 elites of the 6th heaven celestial tier. After all the star beasts were created, they instantly attacked other star beasts. Boom! The terrifying attack caused the galaxy to collapse. Many star beasts fought with each other. With the most primitive attacks, everything around them collapsed. The Star Beast clan was very powerful. More than 200 star beasts, the weakest of whom was a 3rd-tier true immortal, were enough to destroy a realm. However, Zhou-Tian's star map had completely completed a powerful transformation after absorbing the power of the Star Beast Emperor. It could be said that, with the power of the formation, Qin Shujian was invincible below the Dao Fruit Realm. The reason for that was because the 365 6 heaven immortal star beasts that were almost undying and indestructible would be able to sweep away everything in their path. Even a half-step Dao Fruit Realm expert would die in the face of so many star beasts. Watching the battle in the formation, Qin Shujian did not change the formation. Instead, he allowed the star beasts to kill each other. After a while, he threw the god-slaying saber into the array. Go, absorb the energy you need to transcend the tribulation. Whether you can transcend the 8th tribulation depends on this opportunity. He had missed this opportunity. It would not be so easy to gather the energy again. After all, not every place could have more than 200 star beasts, the weakest of whom was a 4th-tier immortal. Only the Star Beast clan had a strong foundation. If it were other clans, they would not be able to do this at all. Even the extinct nefarious fiend clan of the Void could not compare to the Star Beast clan. One had to know. Among the nefarious fiend clan of the Void, including the Boyle clan, which was the first to go extinct, there were a total of 4 or 5 demon emperors. They barely made up 10 demon emperors. Such strength. In front of the Star Beast clan, it was not enough at all. If the Star Beast clan had not been sleeping in the stars, the nefarious fiend clan of the Void would have ceased to exist long ago. In Qin Shujian's opinion, the reason why the Star Beast clan was sleeping should be to accumulate power and then search for an opportunity to live forever. Because no living creature could truly be eternal and indestructible. Even the Star Beasts had an end to their lifespan. The Star Beasts' sleep could be said to be self-protection. The other party was sleeping in the stars, and their auras were almost completely silent. Even time could not do anything to leave too many traces on these Star Beasts. In this way, the lifespan of the Star Beast clan was infinitely extended. More importantly, although the Star Beasts were sleeping, the sealed stars on the outside would constantly absorb the power in the Void and then feed it back to the Star Beasts inside the stars to absorb. Therefore, their strength was constantly improving. Among other things, take the fallen Beast Emperor, for example. Qin Shujian was sure that if he had not broken the seal and given the Beast Emperor millions of years, the first Dao fruit expert would have been born in this era. A Dao fruit expert who broke through naturally while sleeping. Unfortunately, however, the Beast Emperor had encountered him. Qin Shujian also had some understanding of this. How can it be so easy to break through to the Dao fruit realm? Any expert who breaks through will face different tribulations. Only after overcoming them can they truly advance to the Dao fruit realm. Strictly speaking, I am that Beast Emperor's tribulation. The Beast Emperor had fallen. That proved that the other party had failed to transcend the tribulation. Chapter 882. In the array, the stars in the sky shone brightly, transforming into powerful star beasts that fought against the Star Beast clan's experts. Immediately afterward, the Void shook. Endless saber chi suddenly appeared and slashed at one of the star beasts. That star beast was besieged by 2 other star beasts. Caught off guard, it was directly slashed by the saber chi. One of its arms fell off and blood gushed out like a river bursting its banks. The severe pain made the star beast let out a painful cry. The next moment, a stone saber fell. Taking advantage of the star beast's serious injury, it directly cut off its head. Instantly, the head separated from the body. A large amount of blood gushed out. Before all the blood could fall to the Void, it was pulled by a strong force and gathered toward the Godslayer. After a while, all the energy contained in the fallen star beast was absorbed. His originally strong physical body dissipated as if it had been eroded by the wind. The moment the physical body dissipated, a star core appeared from it. One of the stars in the sky suddenly flickered. The star core flew toward the star and then disappeared into it. Buzz. When the star core disappeared, the star could not help but shake. The already dazzling starlight became even more gorgeous. On the other side, the Godslayer rose into the air and floated directly above the array. The hidden power inside was completely released at this moment. A strong suction force spread out, causing the blood of all the injured astral beasts to flow uncontrollably like a river, surging towards him. Rumble. The blood that was like a river of stars converged into a monstrous river and surged in the Void, causing a huge noise. At this moment, the Godslayer was immersed in the river of blood. Oh, comfortable. That feeling made him let out a comfortable sigh. Such rich energy. The God Slayer had not seen much of it. In terms of density, it was probably the last time when he absorbed the Beast Emperor's energy. In the past. Even if there was such rich energy in front of him, he might not dare to boldly absorb it. Because once he absorbed too much energy, he would enter the state of tribulation. No matter how powerful Zhu Bing was, the success rate of tribulation was not 100%. But now that he had made his decision, God Slayer, on the other hand, wasn't too afraid of transcending the tribulation. Since he was going to transcend the tribulation, he might as well do it quickly. Due to the existence of Zhu Bing, as long as the star beasts were injured and their wounds were not healed in time, their blood would be extracted by an invisible force. In this way, the star beast race, which was already at a disadvantage, immediately fell into an even greater disadvantage. However, the God Slayer knew how important the core was to Qin Shujian, so it only absorbed the energy of the star beast. It didn't care about the core of the star beast. Star beasts fell one after another. The star core contained in the physical body also automatically merged with the stars in the sky when the physical body was destroyed. For a moment, the power of Zhou Tian's star map began to increase steadily. Outside the array. At this time, Qin Shujian's full attention was focused on the array. He was also aware of the changes in Zhou Tian's star map. After killing all the star beasts, the array can almost be upgraded to the level of Zhu Bing of the 9 tribulations. He was also faintly happy in his heart. The foundation of the star beast race was much stronger than he had imagined. Not to mention the half-step Dao fruit beast emperors, there were also many star beasts in the upper 3 true immortal realms. After killing the star beasts and seizing their star cores, it would be a rare tonic for Zhou Tian's star map. At this moment, Qin Shujian had already sensed it. Zhou Tian's star map was moving toward the limit. That kind of transformation. Every step was very slow. But every time it took a step, the energy contained in the array would undergo a tremendous change. Now, less than 1/3 of the original number of star beasts were still alive in the array. In other words, during the period when the array was set up, hundreds of star beasts had died. The more star beasts died, the greater the disadvantage of the star beast race. The others could not see the situation in the array. They could only see the river of stars flowing, as if something was being nurtured in it. The Demon Emperor looked for a long time and unconsciously frowned. What's the situation now? Has the Emperor of Heaven suppressed all the star beasts? I can't see the situation in the array. But judging from the current situation, the Emperor of Heaven should have the upper hand. The Dog Emperor glanced at him, and then shook his head. He could not judge too many things. He could only guess some things from Qin Shujian's calm and composed expression. But this did not eliminate the possibility that the other party was just bluffing or pretending to be calm. Of course, the Dog Emperor also had a strong sense of reverence for Zhou Tian's star map array. Such an array. It completely exceeded his previous understanding of arrays. With such a mysterious and unfathomable method, it was not impossible to suppress the Star Beast clan. Something's wrong. The stone spear that was temporarily borrowed by Emperor Zhao was now making a surprised and doubtful sound. Hearing that, Emperor Zhao withdrew his gaze from the river of stars and turned to the stone spear in his hand. "Senior, what did you find?" Hearing the question, John Doe pondered for a moment and said in an uncertain tone, "When the God-Slayer appeared just now, his aura seemed to be a little different from before. I didn't pay much attention to it. But now, I can feel that there is a powerful force that belongs to Zhu Bing rising in the array. Maybe, the God-Slayer is preparing to pass the tribulation." After John Doe finished speaking, Emperor Zhao frowned. Pass the tribulation? Is he going to pass the 7th tribulation? Speaking of this, he was taken aback as well. Emperor Zhao had known that the God-Slayer was Zhu Bing of the 6 tribulations a long time ago, because the other party was passing the tribulation in the outer space. After he returned, he also received the news. Combined with the God-Slayer's original strength, it was not difficult to speculate what stage the other party was at now. The 6 tribulations Zhu Bing. To be honest, he was already one of the top in this era. There were only a few Zubing who were qualified to pass the sixth tribulation and succeeded. Emperor Zhao did not expect that. At this time, the Godslayer was going to pass the seventh tribulation. No, John Doe's voice was solemn, and the stone spear trembled slightly. He is not going to pass the seventh tribulation. He is going to pass the eighth tribulation. The eighth tribulation. Emperor Zhao's heart suddenly trembled, and a look of horror appeared in his calm eyes. That's right. The eighth tribulation should be waiting for him. John Doe's voice was firm as he said word by word. He is going to become the eight tribulations Zubing. Chapter 883. Eight Tribulations Zubing. There had never been an eight tribulations Zubing since ancient times. Wu Ming seemed to have thought of something, and the stone spear trembled even more violently. Since the beginning of this era, the most powerful Zubing had passed through the seventh tribulation, but that was the limit. There had never been a Zubing who could pass through the seventh tribulation and advance to the eighth tribulation. Not only that, but there were only a handful of Zubing who could pass through the seventh tribulation. Godslayer is going to pass through the eighth tribulation this time. He wants to become an eight tribulations Zubing. Where did he get the confidence to pass through the eighth tribulation? Wu Ming became agitated, as if Godslayer could not pass through the eighth tribulation at all. Regarding his change, Emperor Zhao frowned again. It's normal for Zubing to pass through the tribulation. Godslayer is the divine weapon of the Emperor of Heaven, so he must have some means to pass through the tribulation. Besides, since the eight tribulations Zubing exists in this world, it proves that he can exist. So far, there has never been an eight tribulations Zubing, but it doesn't mean that there is no way for future generations to advance. I'm too agitated. Wu Ming came to his senses and realized that he had lost his composure just now.
Seeing this,
Emperor Zhao did not say anything, but he had some thoughts in his mind. When Wu Ming sensed something, Zubing's sky-breaking halberd also sensed something. Immortal, it seems like Godslayer is going to pass through the tribulation. His voice became serious, as if he was going to pass through the tribulation himself. Pass through the tribulation. Xiao Qingfeng's pupils contracted slightly, then he asked, is he going to pass through the seventh tribulation? Although he was a little surprised at first about Godslayer's tribulation, he soon understood. Indeed, passing through the tribulation sounded shocking. However, the problem was that there were so many astral beasts trapped in the array formation. If all the energy was concentrated on one Zubing, it would be enough for any Zubing to enter a state of tribulation transcendence. Therefore, Godslayer's tribulation was reasonable. Xiao Qingfeng would be surprised if he really absorbed so much energy and did not pass the tribulation. The sky-breaking halberd said, it's hard to say. The butchering god is giving me a different feeling now. Even now, he wasn't sure how many tribulations the other party was about to face. Normally speaking, Godslayer should be transcending the seventh calamity. However, sky-breaking halberd recalled the feeling Godslayer gave him, and he wasn't too sure. It couldn't be that he was about to undergo the eighth tribulation, right? Just as this thought appeared in his mind, he was shocked by his own thoughts. The eighth tribulation. In the sky-breaking halberd's memory, it had never appeared before. No, it seems like there was an eighth tribulation. Suddenly, the sky-breaking halberd seemed to recall something again. However, because it had been too long, his memory had become blurry. However, there was one day that he was certain. That was, regardless of whether the eighth tribulation had appeared before, there were definitely only a handful of Zubing who were qualified to transcend the eighth tribulation. At least in the sky-breaking halberd's knowledge, he had never seen the existence of the seventh tribulation Zubing. Time passed little by little. An unknown amount of time passed. All of a sudden, a shocking shockwave rose from the galaxy and shattered the void in the blink of an eye. The moment the void shattered, a stone saber flew through the air. The heavenly tribulation had already condensed in the boundless void at some point in time. The heavenly tribulation. Qin Shu Jian looked at the heavenly tribulation above his head and waved his hand to put away Zhou Tian's astral map. The astral river in the sky dissipated. Along with the astral river, the astral beasts also disappeared. Everyone, retreat from the range of the heavenly tribulation, Qin Shu Jian said in a low voice, and his voice reached the ears of all the heavenly court immortals. Immediately, the heavenly court immortals retreated. Qin Shu Jian also withdrew. Zhou Tian's astral map, which he had taken into a sea of consciousness, was now undergoing some subtle transformations. Bits of starlight were emitted, illuminating the entire sea of consciousness with colors. After retreating, Qin Shu Jian did not pay attention to the Godslayer, but to himself. The changes in the sea of consciousness did not escape his perception. Whether I can transform to the level of the 9th tribulation Zhu Bing depends on the fortune of Zhou Tian's astral map. The astral beasts had been completely wiped out. All the astral cores had also been absorbed and refined by the astral map and transformed into a part of its own power. Zhou Tian's astral map was originally a top 8th tribulation Zhu Bing. Now that it had absorbed more than 200 astral cores, it had enough power to break the shackles. It was just a transformation from the 8th tribulation to the 9th tribulation. It was equivalent to the transformation of a cultivator from the half-step Dao fruit realm to the Dao fruit realm. It was not so easy to achieve. That realm, once crossed, the difference would be like heaven and earth. Therefore, even if Zhou Tian's astral map had the foundation to transform, it would not transform successfully all at once. Instead, it would transform bit by bit under subtle influence. Because of the telepathic connection, Qin Shu Jian could clearly sense that Zhou Tian's astral map was in a transformation stage. But in the end, it was unknown whether it would really transform successfully. Boom! In the void, the heavenly tribulation had already struck down fiercely. Terrifying thunderbolts wreaked havoc like silver snakes dancing wildly, turning all the areas it affected into a forbidden zone for living creatures. Feeling the power of the heavenly tribulation, all the experts' expressions changed abruptly. This power, Xiao Qingfeng's mind was shaken, and his gaze toward the heavenly tribulation was already filled with horror. Even if there was a certain distance between them. But the power of the heavenly tribulation still gave him the illusion of death. In other words, the power of the heavenly tribulation was very strong, to the point where it far exceeded its own limits. The 8th tribulation. This is the 8th tribulation. The sky-breaking halberd cried out involuntarily. He originally thought that Godslayer would be crossing the 7th tribulation, but never would he have thought that he would be crossing the 8th tribulation. The 8th tribulation. Once he succeeded in crossing the tribulation, he would be the unprecedented 8th tribulation Zhu Bing. And to be able to attract the 8th tribulation, that proved that Godslayer was already the 7th tribulation Zhu Bing. The sky-breaking halberd searched through his memories. The 7th tribulation Zhu Bing was only in existence in the legends, and he had never seen it in person. No matter what, he would never have thought. The Godslayer, who was weaker than him in the past, would have surpassed him by so much, directly reaching the 7th tribulation Zhu Bing level. Now, it was even more exaggerated to the point that he was crossing the 8th tribulation. The sky-breaking halberd knew very well. Whether he succeeded or not, it was already destined that he would be completely famous today. Even if he was destroyed in the heavenly tribulation, there would still be experts who would remember that Zhu Bing had once tried to cross the 8th tribulation. More importantly, since Godslayer dared to cross the tribulation so decisively, the sky-breaking halberd vaguely believed that he might really succeed. Sensing this thought, he laughed self-deprecatingly. He began to laugh at himself. How could an 8th tribulation ancestral armament be that easy to obtain? Chapter 884. The 8th tribulation continued to descend. Zhu Bing's 8th tribulation was equivalent to a 9th-level immortal advancing towards half-step Dao fruit. From this, it could be seen just how terrifying was the power of the heavenly tribulation. The expressions of all the immortals who sense the power of the tribulation completely changed at this moment. Even someone as strong as Qin Shujian. Now, in the face of the tribulation, his expression was extremely solemn. Although the 8th tribulation was equivalent to a 9th level immortal advancing towards half-step Dao fruit, it didn't mean that half-step Dao fruit could definitely resist the tribulation in front of him. It could be said that the threat of the tribulation was even greater than that of the Beast Emperor. For a moment, Qin Shujian wasn't absolutely sure whether the Godslayer could successfully transcend the tribulation. No wonder Zhu Bing hasn't been born in this era. Now it seems that Zhu Bing has a lot of room for growth and has a certain advantage compared to the divine weapons of other eras. But it's not that easy to truly grow to the limit. There were gains and losses. The rules were fair. Since Zhu Bing was given the possibility of unlimited growth, it was accompanied by a monstrous lightning tribulation as a test. Only by transcending the lightning tribulation could it truly grow. Otherwise, it would be reduced to ashes.
To be honest,
Qin Shujian was quite used to using the Godslayer. Since the destruction of the divine weapons of the Third Era, Zhu Bing was the divine weapon he was most comfortable with. If he allowed it to be destroyed by the tribulation, it would be a great loss for him. But it's not that easy to interfere with the tribulation. Qin Shujian's expression was calm as he watched the tribulation continue to descend and the Godslayer, who was silently enduring the tribulation's tempering. It wasn't that he couldn't interfere with the tribulation, but that the cost of doing so was too high. If he had the power of a Dao fruit, he would have no problem directly destroying the tribulation. Of course, if he did that, he would definitely anger Huan Yu. However, as an expert at the Dao fruit level, he was still able to put up a fight against an enraged Huan Yu. Although he was strong enough now, there was still a huge gap between him and a Dao fruit. The consequences of forcefully interfering with the heavenly tribulation was very likely to be death with the Godslayer. Let's see. Whether or not you can successfully transcend the tribulation will depend on your luck. Qin Shujian looked at the Godslayer undergoing the tribulation, then silently observed Zhou Tian's star map in his sea of consciousness, which was gradually transforming. He did not do anything. He was waiting. Wait for the right opportunity. As long as Zhou Tian's star map could transform to a level comparable to that of 9 tribulations Zhu Bing, then Qin Shujian would have the confidence to borrow the power of the star map to help Godslayer transcend the tribulation. However, there were 2 prerequisites. One was that Zhou Tian's star map could really transform successfully. The other one, Godslayer, on the other hand, could hold out until then. Rumble. The dark red heavenly tribulation symbolized destruction. Every bolt of heavenly tribulation destroyed the endless void and turned it into nothingness. The petrified blade silently endured the tempering of the heavenly tribulation. Every bolt of lightning caused the blade to vibrate violently. Bits of stone fell off, as if they were originally dust.
Whoosh.
Godslayer looked at the heavenly tribulation with great pressure. If not for 7 tribulations Zhu Bing's powerful body, he would have been destroyed by the heavenly tribulation. But even so, after continuously enduring the heavenly tribulation, Godslayer vaguely felt that he had exceeded his limit. He was not sure how many more heavenly tribulations there were. If it were the 7th heavenly tribulation, he could still fight back. However, facing the 8th heavenly tribulation, he was no longer qualified to fight back.
Yes.
He could only rely on his own strength to resist the heavenly tribulation. Another bolt of lightning fell. A faint crack seemed to appear on the petrified blade. The crack appeared, causing Godslayer to seem to have suffered a heavy blow. Suddenly, the blade hummed. All the powerhouses who were watching the heavenly tribulation could not help but change their expressions when they saw this scene. Xiao Qingfeng's expression froze. Is he going to fail the heavenly tribulation? It's normal to fail the heavenly tribulation. Since ancient times, there has never been a Zhu Bing that could cross the threshold from the 7th tribulation to the 8th tribulation. To be honest, I'm already surprised that Godslayer could reach this step. Skybreaking Halberd continued. In his eyes, it was normal for Godslayer to fail the heavenly tribulation. It would be unreasonable if he succeeded. After all, there were so many Zubing, but there was not a single Zubing that could break through to the 8th tribulation. However, seeing that Godslayer was about to fail the heavenly tribulation, Skybreaking Halberd was also a little sad. Although on the surface, he did not see eye to eye with Godslayer. But to be honest, they had known each other for so many years and had a deep friendship. If Godslayer really failed the heavenly tribulation, Skybreaking Halberd would also feel that it was a pity that there was one less powerful Zubing in the world. Will the Emperor of Heaven have another way? Xiao Qingfeng averted his gaze and looked at Qin Shujian, who looked calm on the other side. From beginning to end, this Emperor of Heaven did not show too much of a change in expression. In his opinion, Godslayer might really have a way. That was hard to say. After all, Qin Shujian's background was not that simple. Godslayer's realm in his previous life was not something that Xiao Qingfeng could compare to. An existence of that realm. Xiao Qingfeng did not dare to be too sure about what kind of backup plan he had. Hearing this, Skybreaking Halberd did not think much of it. Immortal Monarch, you're thinking too much. Zubing's heavenly tribulation is not that easy to interfere with. Although the Emperor of Heaven is indeed very powerful, it is impossible for him to interfere with a heavenly tribulation of this level. Whether or not Godslayer can succeed in the heavenly tribulation depends on his own luck. However, towards the end, Skybreaking Halberd did not continue. At this point, it was already very obvious. He did not have high hopes for Godslayer, nor did he think that he could succeed in the heavenly tribulation. After understanding the power of the 8th tribulation, Skybreaking Halberd developed some fear. If Godslayer failed to pass the heavenly tribulation, if he had the chance in the future, he might not try to pass the heavenly tribulation.
Sigh.
Skybreaking Halberd sighed. Right now, he also really hoped that Godslayer could succeed. Once he succeeded, it would be equivalent to letting the other Zubing understand that there was a path ahead. Even if it would be very difficult, as long as there was a path to take, that would be enough. However, judging from the current situation, Godslayer did not have much hope of passing the heavenly tribulation successfully. It was only a matter of time before he was defeated. Once he failed. If that happened, it would be an enormous blow to the other ancestral armaments.
So,
Skybreaking Halberd's current feelings were very complicated. Godslayer's success or failure in passing the heavenly tribulation was not only related to himself, but also to him. Just as Skybreaking Halberd was feeling a little anxious, Nameless, who had been following Emperor Zhao, could not help but transform into his true form. He stood beside Emperor Zhao and looked at Godslayer below the heavenly tribulation with a complicated expression. Chapter 885. I hope you can succeed. Otherwise, there might not be another 8 tribulation ancestral armament in this epoch. John Doe's eyes were burning at first, but then they dimmed a little. He could see it. Godslayer, who was under the heavenly tribulation, was almost at the end of his tether. But until now, the heavenly tribulation was far from over. Zubing's 8th heavenly tribulation has a total of 13 stages, and each stage has 9 lightning bolts. So far, less than 5 stages of the heavenly tribulation have passed. The further it goes, the stronger the heavenly tribulation will be. If I'm not wrong, with Godslayer's foundation, he should be able to hold on until the 7th stage. But then, that's almost his limit.
John Doe said calmly.
Emperor Zhao, who was standing next to him, couldn't help but glance at him with a surprised look on his face. Senior, it seems that you know a lot about the 8th heavenly tribulation. I don't know much about it. It's just that after living for so long, it's inevitable that I'll see some things. John Doe smiled slightly, shook his head, and answered ambiguously. In this regard, Emperor Zhao also responded with a faint smile. Senior, you're too modest. Although John Doe was modest, in his opinion, John Doe's background was definitely not simple. Since the beginning of this era, there were only a few Zubing's 8th heavenly tribulation. But from what John Doe said, he obviously had a deep understanding of the 8th heavenly tribulation. There was something. It wasn't something that could be known just because one had lived long enough. But John Doe obviously didn't want to say more, and Emperor Zhao couldn't ask further. Everyone had their own secrets. Zhu Bing was the same. At this moment, the heavenly tribulation was still falling. Just as John Doe said, the power of the heavenly tribulation was gradually increasing, especially when it entered a new cycle after 9 lightning bolts. The power of the heavenly tribulation would rise sharply. From the beginning of the heavenly tribulation until now, Godslayer had gone through more than 60 lightning bolts. According to John Doe, more than 60 lightning bolts meant that he had officially entered the 7th heavenly tribulation. Anyone could tell that the god-slaying saber had reached its limit. The petrified blade was covered with cracks, as if it was a divine weapon that had been in battle for a long time and could no longer fight. Are we going to fail? Another thunderbolt struck, and a corner of the stone saber crumbled. Godslayer's heart suddenly calmed down, and he no longer had the nervousness and subtle fear he had when he was going through the tribulation. It had really come to this point. On the contrary, he was very open-minded. However, Godslayer felt a little regretful when he thought about his failure to transcend the tribulation. Scenes of the past emerged from the depths of his memories. It was unknown how many years had passed since it had gained sentience. Too many things had happened during this period of time. But those memories, because of the passage of time, they were gradually sealed away in the deepest parts of the world. Even if Godslayer had wanted to look through the memories in the past, he would not have been able to find all of them.
Until now.
When he was really on the verge of collapse, those memories that he could not find in the past emerged on their own. I was born in ancient times. At that time, the world was in chaos and thousands of races were killing each other. The human race struggled to survive and suffered persecution from thousands of races. Therefore, some humans entrusted their faith to me. That was how the race Subing was born. When I was born that day, an army of foreign races attacked the human race and forced the human race to retreat. The ancient human emperor took me with him to kill all the invaders and led the human race to rise from insignificance. I have existed for too long in this life. I have existed for too long, and it has gradually wiped out the fighting spirit in my heart. I don't know when it started, but I was afraid of transcending the tribulation. I began to stop moving forward and be content with the status quo. You must know that cultivation is like rowing a boat against the current. If you don't move forward, you will fall behind. Once you are afraid and stop moving forward, it will be difficult for you to achieve anything in the future. Since the day I was born, I have sworn that I will become the strongest Zubing in this life. Godslayer spoke faintly. His voice was not loud, but it penetrated the roar of thunder and resounded in the endless void. It was a fighting spirit that had disappeared for a long time. It rose from the depths of his heart. The obsession of the past had been found by the god-slaying saber. He wanted to become the strongest Zubing. What was the strongest Zubing? As long as he could successfully transcend the tribulation and become the unprecedented 8 tribulation Zubing, then he would be the strongest Zubing. Even if, given the current situation, the chances of him successfully transcending the tribulation were slim. But after finding his original heart, Godslayer was no longer afraid of anything. He seemed to have returned to the ancient times, to the time when he was just born. That dormant, invincible Tao heart had been completely awakened. Godslayer. Once the strongest Zubing of the human race, he had led the human race to rise from insignificance. Now, he was still the strongest Zubing of the human race, and he wanted to become the strongest Zubing of all races. An inexplicable Tao rhyme emanated from Godslayer. At this moment, all of his weapons buzzed softly, as if they had sensed a strong summons. What's going on? What the hell is this? Many experts' expressions changed drastically. Looking at the vibrating weapons in their hands, they wanted to suppress it, but there was no way to do so. They could only use their power to confine their weapons so that they would not fly out of their hands. But the vibration did not weaken at all. Divine weapon resonance. Wu Ming blurted out, as if he had seen something inconceivable. Now, he did not care about anything around him. His eyes were fixed on Godslayer. Divine weapon resonance. Only a divine weapon that was unbelievably powerful could cause all the divine weapons in the universe to resonate with it. The so-called power. Not only was the divine weapon itself powerful, but it was also the power of the mind. This was a very mysterious thing. Wu Ming also did not expect Godslayer to trigger the divine weapon resonance at this time. After a short period of shock, his expression slowly calmed down, but there was still some residual complexity on his face. Even if you can trigger the divine weapon resonance, can you really succeed in transcending the tribulation? It's only the 7th tribulation now. There are still 6 tribulation after that. You're already an arrow at the end of its flight. What can you use to fight? The divine weapon resonance was indeed very powerful. But, in Wu Ming's opinion, the hope of transcending the tribulation was still very slim. At this moment, not only in the outer realm, but even in the vast 1,000 domains, all of the weapons seemed to have sensed something. They buzzed, and then a wisp of clear light rose from the weapons and flew toward the passage of heaven and earth. The clear light was very faint, almost to the point of being undetectable. But when the clear light gathered together, it was as dazzling as the bright sun and the stars, attracting the attention of all the cultivators of the 10,000 races. In the blink of an eye, the clear light broke through the passage of heaven and earth and fled toward the outer realm. Chapter 886. The clear light condensed and went straight into the outer void. All the experts couldn't help but look at the clear light. In their sight, the clear light broke through the air like a clear river and directly integrated into Godslayer's body. In an instant, the broken blade seemed to have been greatly nourished and immediately repaired at a speed visible to the naked eye. Not only that, after absorbing the clear light, Godslayer's aura also became stronger. Boom! The stone blade hummed softly. The sound of the blade entered everyone's ears. In the next second, Godslayer rose up and slashed out a 10,000-foot-long blade in the air, fiercely slashing toward the thunder.
Seeing this,
Qin Shujian, who had just raised his hand, immediately put it down. Originally, when he saw Godslayer's appearance, he thought that he was an arrow at the end of its flight. He never expected that the other party would have such a backup plan. Resonance of the divine weapon. Qin Shujian raised his eyebrows slightly. He was aware of the existence of divine weapon resonance, but he had heard John Doe's exclamation just now from the other party's mouth. This was the first time Qin Shujian had heard of divine weapon resonance. With his knowledge and experience, naturally, it could be seen that the clear light was, in fact, the will contained in each of the weapons. In other words, the clear light was equivalent to a part of the weapon's own power. Now that Godslayer had absorbed the clear light, it was equivalent to borrowing the power of all the weapons. This could also explain why the other party's strength had soared. However, even so, Qin Shujian still didn't think that the other party had a high chance of successfully breaking through on his own. The power of the heavenly tribulation is much stronger than I expected. Even a half-step Dao fruit expert may die in the face of such a heavenly tribulation. Godslayer's foundation is still a little weak after all.
he sighed. Then,
Qin Shujian stretched out his hand as if he was pulling something. Qianyuan's sacred ground. The 5-sided stone tablet that originally stood in front of the human emperor's palace shook wildly at this time. Under everyone's horrified gaze, the 5-sided stone tablet soared into the sky and broke through the seal of the Qianyuan realm in an instant.
such a change.
This immediately alarmed the strong cultivators of the Qianyuan sacred ground. One after another, cultivators walked out from their secluded training grounds. Some of them even tried to stop him. But there was no exception. All the powerhouses who tried to stop them were struck by the stone steels and spat out blood.
They were forced to fall from the sky.
Do not act rashly. Xia Kun shouted loudly, stopping the others from taking action. Now that the Qianyuan sacred ground was getting stronger and stronger, correspondingly, the power and status of the elders were also getting stronger and stronger. Right now, Qin Yuanbai and Fang Xinglan were not around. Xia Kun was an elder of the Qianyuan sacred ground. Unless they were on the same level, most people wouldn't dare to disobey her orders. Seeing him appear, suddenly, a strong cultivator said, "Elder Xia, the five-sided stone tablet is the most precious treasure left by the Emperor of Heaven. It is also the foundation of the Qianyuan sacred ground. If the stone tablet still leaves, I'm afraid it will be detrimental to the sacred ground. Moreover, if the Emperor of Heaven pursues this matter, it will be difficult for us to explain ourselves." "What's so hard to explain?" Xia Kun glanced at him and said indifferently, "Could it be that you think that other people are qualified to use the steel left behind by the Emperor of Heaven himself? Now that the stone tablet has escaped, it is obvious that it has been summoned. In this world, no one is qualified to summon the five-sided stone tablet except for the Emperor of Heaven. If you try to stop it without permission, once the Emperor of Heaven pursues this matter, you'll be sentenced to death." Xia Kun was well aware of the importance of the five-sided stone tablet. It was precisely because of this that he didn't want to stop the stone tablet. Hearing this, the other people who tried to stop it were all frightened and broke out in a cold sweat. Only the Emperor of Heaven could summon the stone tablet. If they tried to stop it, it was tantamount to going against the Emperor of Heaven.
It was just as Xia Kun said.
If the Emperor of Heaven really pursued this matter, they would definitely die. Although they seemed to be strong in the human race and were all at the celestial level, in front of the Emperor of Heaven, they were no different from ants. "Xia, Elder Xia," some people were so scared that they stuttered. Seeing this, Xia Kun shook his head. "The Emperor of Heaven is not an ordinary person. He won't pursue this matter. I just said it casually. Let's go." After that, he was still looking in the direction where the stone tablet left, not looking away for a long time. Qin Shujian suddenly summoned the stone tablet. Xia Kun also wanted to know what the other party's purpose was.
He knew very well.
There might be a big battle going on in the extraterritorial battlefield. Unfortunately, that level of battle was not something that a celestial like him could interfere in.
Times had changed.
In the past, the limit of the celestial being was a top expert. Now, the limit of the celestial being was not qualified to be called a top expert. In front of a true immortal, most of the limit of the celestial being were just ants. For example, this battle at the true immortal level was not something that cultivators below the true immortal level were qualified to interfere in. Not to mention interfering. Even if they were just onlookers, they had to consider whether they were qualified to do so. At this time, the five-sided stone tablet left. In an instant, they arrived at the extraterritorial battlefield. Many people noticed the arrival of the stone tablet. Some of the experts revealed doubtful expressions when they saw the five-sided stone tablet. However, there were also some experts who appeared to be bewildered. Because the stone tablet had always existed in the Qianyuan sacred ground, not everyone could see the existence of the stone tablet. But the experts who really knew the existence of the stone tablet all knew one thing, and that was that the stone tablet came from Qin Shujian. Now, the stone tablet suddenly appeared. Some people were secretly guessing whether Qin Shujian had some other purpose. Could it be that he wants the stone tablet to take advantage of the tribulation and directly be promoted to the rank of Zubing? The experts who could stay in the extraterritorial void were not ordinary existences. They could naturally see that there was a strong power of faith on the stone tablet. It could be said that the five-sided stone tablet was actually the embryo of Zubing. As long as they waited for the right opportunity, there was a great chance that they would be promoted to the level of Zubing. For anyone, the 5 pieces of Zubing were rare treasures. Now that the power of the laws formed the heavenly tribulation, most of it acted on the God-Slayer. In contrast, if other heavenly tribulations appeared at this time, the power would definitely be weakened. As a result, it would be much easier for the newly promoted Zubing to transcend the tribulation. Just as others were secretly guessing, the five-sided stone tablet had already arrived in front of Qin Shujian. At this time, the five-sided stone tablet stood in the air, and a strong aura was emitted from it. At the same time, there was also a strong spiritual nurturing on the stone tablet, which revealed a friendly signal to Qin Shujian.
Seeing this,
Qin Shujian was expressionless, and his eyes were still on the Godslayer. The heavenly tribulation continued to bombard him. Compared to before, the power of the heavenly tribulation had increased a lot. Chapter 887.
boom.
Boom. The heavenly tribulation struck down, and the area it touched turned into nothingness. The power borrowed from the resonance of the divine weapon was almost exhausted. The overbearing aura of the god-slaying saber started to weaken. Am I going to fail? Looking at the heavenly tribulation, Godslayer felt a little regretful and pitiful. He finally achieved the resonance of the divine weapon, but he still couldn't pass the heavenly tribulation. The heavenly tribulation had struck more than 100 times since the beginning. Every time it landed, its power was stronger than the previous one. It was as if there was no end to it, even though Godslayer wanted to pass the heavenly tribulation. However, in the face of the endless heavenly tribulation, he also felt powerless. Maybe the universe doesn't allow the existence of the 8 tribulations Zubing. Godslayer sighed. If the existence of the 8 tribulations Zubing wasn't allowed, the heavenly tribulation wouldn't be so powerful. He was confident that his foundation was strong enough, and he also borrowed the power of the resonance of the divine weapon. But even so, he still didn't see any hope of passing the heavenly tribulation. Thus, it was almost impossible for the other Zubing to pass the heavenly tribulation. After all, even if the Zubing's foundation was stronger than his, it wouldn't be much stronger. Godslayer didn't see any signs of the heavenly tribulation dissipating. He didn't believe that the other Zubing could pass the heavenly tribulation. Another strike of lightning struck, and the stone knife faintly cracked.
To this,
Godslayer knew that there was no hope of passing the heavenly tribulation, but he didn't give up struggling. But his resistance was powerless in the face of the heavenly tribulation.
boom. Stone chips fell again.
Godslayer looked at the heavenly tribulation full of destructive aura, and his mind gradually calmed down. He didn't regret passing the heavenly tribulation impulsively. Since he made the decision, he would face such a thing sooner or later. He just regretted that he didn't pass the heavenly tribulation. The legendary 8 tribulations Zubing was like an unbreakable shackle. As much as Godslayer wanted to become the omnipotent Zubing who broke the shackles, there was nothing he could do. Right at this moment, Qin Shujian stretched out his hand as if he was grabbing something from the air. The 5 stone steels around him seemed to have sensed something and began to tremble violently. They even wanted to flee in another direction. Since I created you, you are destined to be used by me. Why do you need to run away? Qin Shujian's eyes were indifferent. There was a boundless power that landed on the stone tablet. Although the 5-sided stone tablet was powerful, it was completely useless in front of him. The stone tablet was locked in place, and a powerful light was being emitted from it. Immediately after, the dim light was slowly extracted from the stone tablet. As the dim light faded away, the stone tablet's aura dropped rapidly. At the same time, it trembled and cried out sorrowfully. Qin Shujian turned a blind eye to this. Very soon, 99% of the dim light on the 5 stone steels had been extracted by him. Only a tiny bit of dim light remained on the stone steels. At the same time, in Qin Shujian's palm, there was a ball of extremely dense dim light floating quietly. The dim light didn't look big, but there seemed to be countless images appearing in it. Looking at it carefully, it could be seen that those images were actually of the human clan. A simple ball of dim light seemed to contain the entire human clan. At the same time, it emitted a strong aura that made people want to immerse themselves in it unconsciously. The power of faith is as intoxicating as ever. Qin Shujian held the dim light with one hand, and there was a look of emotion on his face. What he extracted from the stone tablet was nothing else but the faith of the human clan that existed on the stone tablet. For any Zubing, or Zubing embryo, faith was a necessary foundation.
This was also why
When the faith of the five-sided stone tablets was extracted, they would want to escape. Although they were divine weapons that Qin Shujian had personally refined, they wouldn't really be willing to wait for death. Because the stone tablets had already given birth to spiritual intelligence. Once all the faith was extracted, their spiritual intelligence would also dissipate. In this case, they were equivalent to death in disguise. However, Qin Shujian didn't really extract all the faith. He only extracted 99% of it and still left a little bit to preserve the spiritual intelligence of the stone tablets. The five-sided stone tablets had gathered almost all the faith of the human clan. Although it had only existed for 20 or 30 years, the faith contained in it had already reached a terrifying level. Qin Shujian looked at the power of faith in his hand. He was almost certain. If it was the third era, the era where one could rely on faith to become a god, with the faith in his hand, he could definitely create a powerful god. A god of the upper level 3 true immortal. However, in this era where one couldn't use faith to become a god, the huge power of faith didn't have much use other than being able to create Zubing. The next second, Qin Shujian directly threw out the power of faith in his hand. Buzz! The dim light transformed from the power of faith quickly crossed the barrier of space and directly fell on the Godslayer's blade. The power of faith fell. The Godslayer was like a person who had been thirsty for a long time in the desert and suddenly received a clear spring. Surging power emerged and repaired all the cracks on the blade.
Not only that,
After the cracks were repaired, the aura of the stone blade rose steadily. Soon, it surpassed its previous peak and reached an unprecedented level. Boom! The tyrannical aura erupted, accompanied by blade chi that tore the sky and earth apart. The faces of all the experts who felt the saber chi changed abruptly.
hiss!
What a powerful blade chi! The immortals and gods of the heavenly court all gasped. Even people as strong as Emperor Zhao and Xiao Qingfeng now changed their expressions. Wu Ming's pupils suddenly contracted. He had been paying attention to the changes in the Godslayer. Now that he saw this, the shock in his heart had reached a point where it couldn't be any more shocking. Faith infusion. So this works too. Wu Ming murmured absent-mindedly. There was a half-smile on his face and a half-cry expression. That's right. Zhu Bing originally relied on faith to grow, so what was wrong with being infused with faith? It was just that in the past, any Zhu Bing or Zhu Bing embryo was extremely precious. No one would kill the goose that lays the golden eggs. Moreover, a Zhu Bing couldn't be absorbed by any power of faith. The faith that could be infused could only be of the same type. In short, only the faith of the same race could be infused. A race. It was already a very lucky thing to be able to give birth to one Zhu Bing. How could there be extra Zhu Bing born?
Therefore,
Even if others understood this method, they couldn't meet this condition at all. P.S. The group, full subscription group, 110-566-9567. Chapter 888. Wu Ming was not the only one who was surprised. The sky-breaking halberd was the same. He didn't expect that Zhu Bing's tribulation could be done like this. The Heavenly Emperor has extracted all of the faith from the 5 ancestral armament embryos. In that case, the 5 ancestral armament embryos can be considered to be crippled. As for whether or not they will be able to undergo the heavenly tribulation and become ancestral armaments in the future, it will all depend on luck. The sky-breaking halberd's tone was solemn. The faith of the 5 Zhu Bing embryos had been extracted. It was not so easy to condense them again. Although the Zhu Bing embryos had only experienced 20 to 30 years from nothing. But in fact, in the beginning, the faith provided by the human race was the most abundant.
but the more time passed,
The more the power of faith was balanced, and there was no way to have an explosive growth like in the beginning. In this case, whether the 5 Zhu Bing embryos were qualified to pass the tribulation in the future was completely up to fate. However, the sky-breaking halberd also expressed its understanding of Qin Shujian's approach. The 5 Zhu Bing embryos were indeed powerful. After passing the tribulation in the future, they could play a big role. But the problem was using 5 Zubing embryos in exchange for 1 Zubing with 8 tribulations. Anyone with a normal brain would know what to choose. However, everything had a premise. That was, the God-Slayer could pass the tribulation successfully. If he failed, then all the consumption would be a permanent loss. In the beginning, the sky-breaking halberd didn't think that the God-Slayer could pass the tribulation successfully. But with the resonance of the divine weapon and the faith of the human race, the probability of the other party passing the tribulation successfully had greatly increased under the combination of multiple advantages. Rumble. The faith of the human race caused the God-Slayer to undergo a strong transformation. Although he still hadn't passed the tribulation successfully, under the effect of the faith, he was already moving towards surpassing the 7 tribulations Zubing. The tribulation bombarded. The power of faith emitted a powerful dim light, constantly contending with the tribulation. Time passed. The power of the tribulation was also getting stronger and stronger. But everyone could understand that the tribulation was actually coming to an end at this point. It's almost over. Wu Ming suddenly spoke, his tone filled with emotion. The 8 tribulations had a total of 13 stages. Up until now, the heavenly tribulation had already descended 12 stages. Given the God-Slayer's foundation, it should have been completely destroyed when it was still in the 8th or 9th tier. However, the divine weapon resonated. As a result, he was able to forcefully endure quite a few heavenly tribulations. In the end, he received the power of faith from the human race, which greatly increased his foundation. Although there was still one heavenly tribulation, in nameless eyes, God-Slayer's foundation was enough to pass the tribulation successfully. Thinking that the other party was about to succeed, Wu Ming sighed again. I didn't expect that after millions of years, there would really be a Zubing who could successfully transcend the tribulation and become the first Zubing since the beginning of this era. Senior, you seem to be implying something? Emperor Zhao turned his head and glanced at him. Ever since God-Slayer began his tribulation, John Doe's condition had been very strange. Hearing this, John Doe shook his head and laughed. Emperor Zhongyuan, you worry too much. For any Zubing, being able to witness the birth of an 8 tribulations Zubing is a supreme honor. At this point, John Doe's smile faded a little. You have to know that an 8 tribulations Zubing has never been born in the world. The known 7 tribulations is the peak. The obsession of the 8 tribulations has been engraved on all Zubing. If you can witness the birth of an 8 tribulations Zubing, I believe that any Zubing will be happy. Zubing seemed extremely powerful, but the upper limit was there. There had never been an 8 tribulations, and 7 tribulations was the peak. Compared to the cultivators of the myriad races who had almost reached the peak of cultivation and had half-stepped Dao fruit, Zubing was undoubtedly much weaker. If one were to compare Zubing with cultivators, that was equivalent to Zubing's strongest existence being only comparable to a 9th heaven immortal. Moreover, it was unknown how many years ago and had long fallen under the heavenly tribulation. Now, an 8 tribulations Zubing was born. For any Zubing, it was a blessing. Everything else aside, the birth of an 8 tribulations Zubing alone proved that the road ahead was not a dead end. If one Zubing succeeded in transcending the tribulation, it meant that there would be a second one, a third one, after explaining the situation to Zhao Huang. Wu Ming kept his mouth shut. The upper limit of Zubing had been opened. The birth of an 8 tribulations Zubing was destined to be recorded in the long river of time. No one could erase it. However, for Zubing, the 8 tribulations was not the end. Above the 8 tribulations, there was still the 9 tribulations that he imagined. But whether he could advance to the 9 tribulations was another unknown. Now that the God-Slayer had succeeded in transcending the tribulation, he was the existence closest to the 9 tribulations. In the future, perhaps he would become the 9 tribulations Zubing in history. It was just as John Doe thought. More than half of the heavenly tribulation had already passed above the 12th level. Because of the new infusion of the faith of the human race, the God-Slayer's consumption was replenished. Even when it was nearing the end, it was not at the end of its rope. Crack! The dark red lightning, like a sign of death, slashed down at the stone saber. Then, a dim light appeared. The power of the lightning weakened a lot. The remaining power bombarded down, but it did not shake the stone saber much. Time passed. The heavenly tribulations came down one after another. When the last heavenly tribulation fell, the void suddenly shook violently. A vast gray river descended from the dark. The moment the gray river appeared, the expressions of all the powerhouses above the true immortal level changed. The river of time. Powerhouses who could reach the true immortal level were naturally not unfamiliar with the river of time. In this situation, any one of them was qualified to swim freely on the river of time. But what they did not expect was that the river of time would suddenly descend. This is not right. The river of time is not right. One of the true immortals suddenly cried out. Hearing that, the other true immortals could not help but take a closer look at the river of time and also found the problem. Yes, the river of time is not right. It is very different from the river of time that we have observed in the past. Could it be, this is the river of time in the outer space? Those true immortals were shocked and bewildered. Although the river of time looked similar, there was a big difference in reality. The river of time in the Great Thousand Domains and the river of time in front of them were two completely different concepts. There was no comparison at all. Just as they were shocked and bewildered, Xiao Chengfeng suddenly said, "It is not the river of time in the outer space, but the river of time in the universe. Since the birth of the universe, there has been a river of time that runs through everything, whether it is the outer space or the river of time in the Great Thousand Domains. Strictly speaking, they are all tributaries of the river of time in the universe. If a fight between powerhouses can break the river of time, then it can only be a tributary. Only the river of time in the universe cannot be cut off. It records everything in the universe." Chapter 889. As a veteran genuine immortal, Xiao Chengfeng was naturally no stranger to the long river of time in the universe. It was just that he did not expect, at the critical moment, the long river of time in the universe would suddenly appear. At this moment, the long river of time in the universe descended, and the long gray river crossed the void. Suddenly, the shadow of a stone saber rose from the long river, and a saber sound that penetrated the divine soul entered everyone's ears. The next second, the long river of time disappeared. Only a stone saber stood in the void, as if it could suppress heaven and earth for eternity. He stretched out his hand. The God Slayer had fallen into Qin Shujian's hands. Holding the stone saber, he could clearly feel that there was an extremely powerful force looming on the saber, which was completely different from before. 8 Tribulations Zubing. Looking at the God Slayer, Qin Shujian smiled. In any era, a divine weapon that could reach this level was a top existence. Innate cardinal treasures were unparalleled in the world. But to be honest, the number of innate cardinal treasures that could be born in each era could be counted on one hand. Below innate cardinal treasures, an 8 Tribulations Zubing like the God Slayer was already the top. He had not recovered the cultivation of the third era, so even if he had a 9 Tribulations Zubing, he might not be able to exert 100% of its power. On the other hand, an 8 Tribulations Zubing could exert its power to the fullest. Emperor of Heaven, fortunately, I did not disappoint you. A heavy voice sounded in the God Slayer. He knew very well what kind of price Qin Shujian had paid for him to succeed in the tribulation. If he had not extracted the faith of the 5 Zubing embryos in the end, he would have definitely failed the tribulation. To put it more bluntly, it was all thanks to Qin Shujian that he could become an 8 Tribulations Zubing. This point, the God Slayer could still distinguish clearly. Very good. Qin Shujian nodded, and the next moment, he put the stone saber into a sea of consciousness. At this moment, he had the 8th Tribulation Zubing with him. Zhou Tian's star map was also gradually transforming. Judging from the current situation, The other party had a great chance of transforming into a level comparable to that of the 9 tribulations Zhu Bing. At this point, he was certain that no one below the Dao Fruit Realm was a match for him. After doing these things, Qin Shujian looked at the gods of the heavenly court and said in a deep voice, "Now that the void demons have been destroyed and the star beasts have been wiped out, the outer realm void belongs to the heavenly court." Everything in the extraterritorial battlefield was restored, and all races were free to explore the void. However, the Devil Abyss is approaching. Cultivators of all races must not approach the Devil Abyss without permission. At the same time, all races must prepare for war and wait for the right time to attack the Devil Abyss. After that, he took a step forward, and the void shattered. His figure was instantly swallowed up. In the boundless void, only the dignified words reverberated endlessly. When the cultivators of the myriad races heard this, joy appeared on their faces. Qin Shujian's words were undoubtedly an announcement that the outer realm would be included in the heavenly court. In this way, the cultivators of the myriad races could freely explore the outer realm void without worrying about any threats. In the past, although they could explore the outer realm void, there was the obstruction of the void demons. If they were not careful, they might lose their lives. But it was different now. The void demons had been wiped out, and there would not be so many problems to explore the outer realm void. However, some were happy, while others were depressed. Although the void demons had been dealt with, the demon abyss was approaching, and it would not be long before the war began. What an eventful time! Some cultivators of the myriad races sighed. Before they could catch their breath, they were going to war with the demon abyss again. Even the donkeys of the production team did not dare to move so frequently. However, they also understood. The problem of the upcoming war was not the heavenly court, but the demon abyss. This war was the demon abyss's intention to take over the upper-class world, and the heavenly court had no choice but to fight. Prepare for war. Emperor Zhao looked at the other immortals of the heavenly court and said indifferently, "The void demons had been wiped out, but it did not mean that the heavenly court could rest and recuperate. Compared to the demon abyss, the void demons were just an insignificant stumbling block." Early in the ancient times, the void demons had been beaten by the heavenly court until they pissed their pants. In the end, they relied on the vastness of the outer realm to struggle at death's door. But even the ancient heavenly court, which had the ability to destroy the void demons, was destroyed by the demon abyss in the end. The demon abyss was powerful. Without experiencing it, one would never be able to understand. The current heavenly court seemed to be much stronger than in the ancient times, but Emperor Zhao was not sure if they had the ability to deal with the demon abyss. With the destruction of the void demons, the safety of the outer realm greatly increased, and more cultivators of the myriad races rushed towards the outer realm void. Even though the void demons were gone, and there was no way to earn merit points. However, the outer realm void had existed for countless years, and many treasures had been condensed and scattered everywhere in the void. They were rare treasures for anyone. Just this one alone. It was enough to make the cultivators of the myriad races yearn for it. As a large number of cultivators of the myriad races poured in, the original outer realm battlefield became crowded. The difference was, the original outer realm battlefield was the front line against the void demons, and it was covered by an iron-blooded atmosphere. The current outer realm battlefield was purely a supply point for the myriad races to explore the outer realm void. In comparison, the atmosphere was much more relaxed. Can we go to the heavenly court now? In the outer realm battlefield, Fu Moyan asked silently in his heart. Qin Yi, who existed in his sea of consciousness, shook her head when she heard this. There's no hurry. The battle has just ended, and the heavenly court needs to reward you based on your contributions. Even if you go over now, no one will care about you. Why don't you stay in the outer realm battlefield for a while? You can also use your merit points to exchange for more treasures. That's the only way. Fu Moyan nodded helplessly. Just as the other party said, now that the heavenly court had just destroyed the void demons, they would definitely reward them based on their contributions. How could he disturb them? Now that the void demons were extinct, there was one less important way to obtain merit points. One could imagine. The value of merit points would increase by a large margin. With the same amount of merit points, the things that could be exchanged for would definitely be more than usual. Thinking of this, Fumoyan did not waste time and immediately walked towards the Heavenly Court branch in the city. After the void demons were destroyed, the smoke of war dissipated a lot. Many cultivators thought that the myriad races could welcome a short period of peace. In the great wide world, an intense battle was also taking place. Boom! Several cultivators dressed in black robes were surrounding a human. A terrifying amount of power was being unleashed, flattening everything around them. Who exactly are you? How dare you provoke a conflict between the myriad races? Feng Xinglan was unable to restrain his anger. As he dealt with the siege of the black-clothed cultivators, he questioned coldly. But no matter how he spoke, those black-clothed cultivators did not say a word, as if they were mutes.
To this,
Feng Xinglan was angry and helpless. Chapter 890. When he sensed that something was wrong in the extraterritorial battlefield, Feng Xinglan quietly retreated to the Great Thousand World, wanting to return to the Qianyuan sacred ground to avoid any unpredictable accidents. There was nothing wrong with his plan. Unfortunately, he had underestimated the other party's determination to kill him. Not long after he returned to the Great Thousand World and left the passage, he was attacked by mysterious cultivators. There were a total of 6 black-clothed cultivators. Moreover, the strength of each black-clothed cultivator was at the celestial limit. Similarly, Feng Xinglan's strength was also at the celestial limit. As the deputy sacred lord of the Qianyuan sacred ground, he had a lot of treasures. But even so, facing the siege of 6 cultivators of the same level, he gradually fell into a disadvantageous position. After all, no matter how strong one was, there was no way to be invincible in the same realm. Being besieged by 6 cultivators of the same level, not to mention Feng Xinglan, even Qin Yuanbai would find it difficult to gain an advantage.
Boom. Boom.
The battle was still ongoing. Feng Xinglan could only barely hold on. As soon as he was besieged, he wanted to send a message. However, the distance of the communication jade talisman was limited. There was no way to send a message back to the Qianyuan sacred ground. So until now, no reinforcements had arrived. It seems that you are determined to kill me today. With no way out, Feng Xinglan calmed down. Cultivators at the celestial limit were considered the backbone of any clan and could be regarded as the reserve of a true immortal. Now that 6 of them had come out, it was obvious that they had the intention to kill him. From beginning to end, the 6 of them were also trying to kill him. With a wave of their hands, a formation appeared out of thin air and covered one of the black-clothed cultivators. Immediately afterward, 2 black-clothed cultivators directly attacked. Their tyrannical power exploded the formation in the air. At the same time, the other 4 black-clothed cultivators attacked. Feng Xinglan's protective qi had just risen when it was torn apart by a terrifying force. His body was directly bombarded and sent flying.
Puff.
He coughed up blood. There was only madness in his eyes. You force me to do this. Feng Xinglan took out several divine weapons from his storage ring and then threw them out. The divine weapons flew through the air. The next second, they exploded with a loud bang. Rumble. The divine weapons that were comparable to Dao weapons exploded were naturally extraordinary. The tyrannical power tore the void apart. However, under the joint efforts of 6 celestial beings, even the destructive power of the self-detonation of a divine weapon could be forcibly destroyed. Damn it! Seeing that the self-destruction of the divine weapon had no effect, Feng Xinglan could not help but curse in his heart. Even so, however, he didn't dare to stop moving. One by one, divine weapons were thrown out from the storage ring and detonated. There was no way he could fight them head-on. He could only use the self-destruction of his divine weapon to stall for time, and then find an opportunity to escape or think of a way to attract the attention of other experts. As the divine weapons exploded one by one, the cultivators in black were caught in an awkward situation too. Damn it, why does he have so many divine weapons? He wants to stall for time and end the battle quickly. It was a simple exchange. The attacks of the black-robed cultivators became even more ferocious. Some of them even resisted the self-detonation of the divine weapon with their physical bodies. In this way, the distance between them and Feng Xinglan was shortened again. Seeing this, Feng Xinglan's face suddenly darkened. They were really going all out to kill him. Even if they were injured by the power of the self-detonation of the divine weapon, they would not let him escape. He couldn't figure out who had such a great hatred for him that they had to pay such a price to kill him. It's impossible. I've been the Deputy Sacred Lord of the Qianyuan Sacred Ground for so many years and have always kept a low profile. I rarely even go out of the sacred ground. How could I have provoked such an enemy? Feng Xinglan couldn't figure it out. As for before he became the Deputy Sacred Lord of the Qianyuan Sacred Ground, it was even more impossible for him to offend the other party. After all, at that time, he was just a Grand Supreme Elder of the Heavenly Array sect. He seemed to have a high status in the human clan. However, compared to the other clans, he could only be said to be insignificant. He was both insignificant and insignificant. It was impossible for him to provoke other powerful clans, let alone make the other party eager to kill him. After fighting for so long, Feng Xinglan was basically sure from the methods of the black-robed cultivators that they were not human clan cultivators. Since they were not human clan cultivators, they must be from other clans. Just as he was secretly guessing in his heart, the attacks of the 6 black-robed cultivators had become very fierce. Feng Xinglan couldn't beat them to begin with. Under the fierce attacks of the black-robed cultivators, it was even more difficult for him to resist. Just as they were fighting each other, in the heavenly court, the gods had returned from the extraterritorial battlefield and all gathered in the inner hall of the heavenly palace. Qin Shujian, who was sitting on the throne, looked straight ahead. There was an ancient mirror floating in the air, and an image appeared in the mirror. It was the scene of several black-robed cultivators besieging and killing Feng Xinglan. Looking at the scene in the mirror, some of the immortal gods were calm, some had strange expressions, and some even looked angry. Emperor of Heaven, now that the heavenly law has been established, the 10,000 clans should not fight each other anymore. Now that someone has secretly assassinated a powerhouse of the human clan, this matter must not be let go. After watching for a moment, Xiong took the lead and stepped out. After cupping his hands, he said loudly. As soon as he finished speaking, the Thousand-Eye Emperor also stepped out and nodded in agreement. That's right, the 10,000 clans should be harmonious. Now that there are cultivators besieging and killing a powerhouse of the human clan, it is a violation of the heavenly law in itself. Not only must the person who did it be severely punished, even the clan behind him must give an explanation. That's too much. The Earth Emperor narrowed his eyes and said slowly, it's inevitable that there will be some clansmen who do things that violate the heavenly law. If everything involves the clan itself, I'm afraid it's making a mountain out of a molehill. What does the Antarctic war god mean? Could it be that the person who did it is from the 9-headed dog clan? The Thousand-Eye Emperor asked. In response, the Earth Emperor's expression was as calm as ever. Whether it's from the 9-headed dog clan or not, I'm just stating the facts. As he spoke, he felt helpless in his heart. No matter what, he would never have thought that the heavenly mirror could be so powerful that it could really observe every move in the upper-class world. In order to find a suitable place to assassinate, there were no living beings in the places where he did it. He originally thought that this matter would be very secretive, but the Earth Emperor never expected that it would be directly recorded by the heavenly mirror and then let the gods in the inner hall of the heavenly palace observe. At this point, he also understood that it was impossible to succeed in assassinating Feng Xinglan. Whether it was Qin Shujian or the powerhouses of a human clan, They would not sit and watch Feng Xinglan's defeat. The only thing he could do now was to wait for the matter to be completely exposed and minimize the impact. Chapter 891. Just as the few of them were arguing, an unstoppable aura suddenly swept through the inner hall, causing all the voices to instantly fall silent. Emperor of Heaven, please calm down. The gods lowered their heads and shouted. There was faintly fear in the eyes of the earthly sovereign and the others. If they were to ask who they feared the most in the heavenly court, it would undoubtedly be Qin Shujian. The strength of this Emperor of Heaven had reached a terrifying level. If he wanted to kill them, he wouldn't need to waste the slightest bit of energy. Just as they were feeling terrified, Qin Shujian slowly said, "The heavenly court has been established, and the 10,000 races should be harmonious. Right now, there are foreign race cultivators trying to assassinate humans, which is already a violation of the heavenly law. What do you think should be done? If they violate the heavenly law, they should be killed. Otherwise, it will damage the reputation of the heavenly court." Xiang immediately followed up. As soon as he finished speaking, Si Hanhai nodded slightly. Indeed, violating the heavenly law is a big deal. We must punish them severely. Otherwise, it will be difficult to protect the reputation of the heavenly court. The 5 imperial emperors all spoke. The remaining immortals who wanted to sell the human race also spoke at this time. For a moment, in the inner hall, there were shouts of fighting and killing. Only a few immortals stood there expressionlessly, without any intention of expressing their opinions. The earthly sovereign's face was gloomy, but he couldn't say anything else. The matter of the siege had been exposed. If he said anything more, he might get himself into trouble. Right now, he could only wait and see what would happen. After a while, Qin Shujian raised his right hand, and all the voices disappeared. "Since all of you agree to kill those who violate the heavenly law, then I will do as you wish." As soon as his voice fell, he waved his sleeve, and a ray of light shot out, directly entering the heavenly mirror. Immediately, all the immortals looked at the heavenly mirror at the same time. In their eyes, the black-clothed cultivators who besieged Feng Xinglan suddenly disappeared, as if they had never appeared. Silence. The inner hall was strangely quiet. All the immortals and deities fixed their gazes on the heaven-reaching mirror, their eyes filled with shock. They were not shocked by the deaths of the black-robed cultivators. After all, it was easy for anyone present to kill a few cultivators at the peak of the celestial being realm. They were truly shocked. It was Qin Shujian who was able to use the heaven-span mirror to wipe out those people. In this way, as long as they were within the boundaries of the Great Thousand World, if the other party wanted to kill anyone, they did not need to leave the heavenly court. They could just use the heavenly mirror to kill them hundreds of millions of miles away. Killing without leaving a trace. This was the true definition of killing without leaving a trace. Everyone, please go back and order your clansmen not to cause any more trouble. If something like this happens again in the future, I won't just kill a few people. Everyone, please give me a satisfactory answer. Qin Shujian's voice was calm, but to some people, it was filled with coldness. Immediately, the immortals lowered their heads, not daring to reply. The scene also calmed down. After a long while, Qin Shujian put away the heaven-span mirror and looked at the gods. This time, the destruction of the 3 great clans has established the foundation of the heavenly court in the outer realm. Everyone and the myriad races have contributed a lot. If there is a mistake, there will be a punishment. If there is a merit, there will naturally be a reward. This time, the heavenly court has occupied the outer realm, causing the providence of the heavenly court to increase greatly. The god role also has enough providence to condense a new deity position. Deity position. Hearing these 2 words, all the immortals and deities' expressions froze. If there was something that they cared about the most, it would be the deity position. The heavenly court was an existence that ruled over the myriad races. Any race that could be conferred a deity position in the heavenly court had a higher status than those races that did not have a deity position. not to mention the various benefits that a deity position could bring. Therefore, fighting for a deity position was something that every race cared about. The more deity positions a race had in the heavenly court, the more authority they would have. As for the benefits of having more authority, one could tell just by looking at the human race. When the Emperor of Heaven was not around, it was almost all the powerhouses of the human race who were giving orders. If the other races could do the same, they would naturally be extremely happy. The Dog Emperor cupped his hands. Emperor of Heaven, are you planning to confer a new deity position? He also wanted a deity position. Until now, the nine-headed dog clan had only been alone in the heavenly court, so it was inevitable that they would be a little weak. That's right. Qin Shujian nodded slightly and continued. This time, the providence of the heavenly court has increased greatly, and the god roll has condensed more than 1 or 2 deity positions, so I have decided to set up 3,000 divine generals. The 3,000 divine generals are above the heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals. They have the responsibility of protecting the heavenly court and also enjoy the protection of the heavenly court's providence. They have the qualifications to leave their names on the god roll. Although the deity positions of the 3,000 divine generals are not comparable to those of the ministers, they are definitely not something that ordinary people can take up. This time, the destruction of the 3 great clans was meritorious, and the myriad races also contributed a lot. Therefore, I have decided that all the myriad races in the great wide world will be conferred a deity position.
Boom.
When Qin Shujian finished speaking, it was as if thunder had exploded in the hearts of the gods, causing them to be in a daze. 3,000 divine generals. Previously, they had only thought that the other party would confer 1 or 2 deity positions. However, they had never thought that Qin Shujian would be so bold as to directly create 3,000 deity positions. 3,000 divine generals. With the current number of the myriad races, even 1 deity position for each race was more than enough. Faced with the shock of the gods, Qin Shujian had long expected it. Conferring the title of 3,000 divine generals was his original idea. Early in the Third Era, the immortals and gods in the heavenly court were not as vast as the stars, but there were definitely many of them. In comparison, the current heavenly court only had a few hundred immortals and gods, which was undoubtedly much worse. In the past, they had not conquered the outer realm void, and the providence of the myriad races was insufficient, causing the heavenly court to not have any extra providence to condense too many deity positions. But this time was different. The void evil demons were wiped out, and the outer realm void was completely under the control of the heavenly court. As a result, their providence naturally increased greatly. In addition, the 3,000 divine generals could not be compared to the existing immortals and gods in terms of status, so when condensing a deity position, the consumption would be correspondingly less. As a result, it was not difficult to condense the deity positions of the 3,000 divine generals. It was a good opportunity to make use of the increase in the heavenly court's providence to expand the strength of the heavenly court and use it to face the demon abyss.
Qin Shujian believed.
If the 3,000 divine generals were set up, then the experts who obtained the deity position were almost certain to be perfected immortals. When that time came, as the god roll that conferred the titles of the gods, it would also complete a transformation. After all, although there were a few supreme treasures of the heavenly court, the god roll was still a supreme treasure that had existed from the beginning. In addition, the method of conferring the titles of the gods was extraordinary. It was just that there were not enough gods and they were not strong enough, so there was no way to make the god roll transform. When the 3,000 divine generals were conferred, there was no need to fill up the deity positions to make the god roll transform. At that time, the heavenly court would have another powerful supreme treasure. Chapter 892. In the inner hall of the heavenly palace, all the gods were thinking about what happened just now. 3,000 divine generals were set up. Then the heavenly court was destined to expand. Immediately, an immortal god said, "Emperor of Heaven, If the 3,000 divine generals return, with the current scale of the heavenly court, I'm afraid there's no way to accommodate them. It won't be long before the heavenly court expands, but the 3,000 divine generals have a lower status and are not qualified to have a palace in the heavenly palace. Therefore, when the time comes, the divine generals who become gods will have to find a place to use as a palace. Qin Shu Jian said calmly. Hearing that, the other immortals finally understood how low the status of the 3,000 divine generals was. Even in the heavenly court, they did not have a palace that belonged to them. However, no matter how low their status was, they were still gods of the heavenly court and were qualified to enjoy the blessings of the heavenly court. As long as they became gods and enjoyed the blessings of the heavenly court, then those who became gods would almost certainly be able to break through to the perfected immortal realm. And they would have the blessings of luck. After breaking through, they would definitely not be ordinary perfected immortals. Therefore, no matter how low the status of the 3,000 divine generals was, they were important to the immortals of the heavenly court. Also, Qin Shu Jian scanned the gods and said calmly, the 3 unorthodox god positions have been empty for a long time. Anyone who is the first to advance to the 3rd realm of the Grandmaster realm will be able to become a god. This is very important to the heavenly court. I can only give you about 10 more years. If no one breaks through to the 3rd realm by then, the heavenly court will start a selection. Those who stand out, regardless of whether they reach the 3rd realm or not, will be qualified to become a god. However, there is a prerequisite. All those who participate in the selection must have at least the cultivation level of a heavenly being. We obey. The gods all bowed respectfully. When they straightened up, many immortals had complicated expressions. Compared to the 3,000 divine generals, the 3 god positions were higher. However, although the last time the news was announced, the immortals all reactivated the 3 god positions, the problem was that the immortals had a shallow foundation in the 3 god positions. Even if they reactivated the 3 god positions, there would not be any results in a short period of time. The only ones who had the most hope of obtaining the 3 god positions were the humans. However, Qin Shu Jian's last words gave them hope. If within 10 years, if the human race could not produce a 3rd realm grandmaster, then the other races would still have the right to compete for the godly position. Although the chances of winning were slim, there was still hope. Unlike now, there was no possibility at all. If there is nothing else, then the court is dismissed. We will take our leave. All the deities bowed. Now that the Void Fiend race had been annihilated, there was nothing left for the other races to do. Naturally, there was nothing much to say. Moreover, the 3,000 immortal generals were a matter of great importance. He still needed to go back and discuss it carefully. The deities left. Outside the Sky Palace, Xiang suddenly stopped. He looked at the earthly sovereign and said with a smile, War God of the South Pole, which race do you think it is that dares to assassinate the masters of our human race? You ask the wrong person. The Emperor of the Earth Realm smiled faintly and replied in a carefree manner. Seeing this, Xiang responded with a smile, then turned around and left. After returning to his palace, the smile on earthly sovereign's face disappeared and turned gloomy. Damn it! He cursed angrily. Soon after, he raised his head and looked up. The anger on his face receded a lot. The sky mirror could reflect the universe. The Emperor of the Earth Realm was not sure if he was in the image of the sky mirror. Although the ugly look on his face disappeared, the anger in his heart did not subside at all. It didn't matter if he lost a few extreme celestial beings. After all, now that the spiritual energy had increased substantially, it was not easy to cultivate a few extreme celestial beings, but it was definitely not a difficult thing. Moreover, of the 6 extreme celestial beings, only 1 was from the earthly dragons, and the rest were from other races. What the Emperor of the Earth Realm was really angry about was that he could not kill Feng Xinglan. Not only did he not kill him, the matter of the assassination was also exposed. He was basically sure that Qin Shu Jian was absolutely clear about which race the assassin came from. But the other party directly killed him and did not pester him too much, which could be considered as leaving him some face. Thinking of that terrifying method, the Emperor of the Earth realm felt a chill in his heart. The Emperor of Heaven's method was really strange and unpredictable. Although his strength had increased substantially, if he really faced the Emperor of Heaven, there was only a dead end. The inner hall of the Heavenly Palace. On the throne, Qin Shujian did not do anything. In the sea of consciousness, Godslayer's voice sounded. Emperor of Heaven, among those who assassinated Feng Xinglan, there must be someone from the earthly dragons. Why don't you expose him and punish the Emperor of the Earth? If even he could see some clues from the heaven-reaching mirror, he didn't believe that Qin Shujian, the celestial emperor, wouldn't be able to see anything. Hearing this, Qin Shujian's expression was indifferent. Now that the human race is in the limelight in the heavenly court, it has already caused the various races to be wary. Otherwise, I have to consider the feelings of the various races. Right now, the earthly dragons have joined forces with the various races to kill Feng Xinglan, which is a performance of suppressing the human race. I don't say anything, so the various races can feel more at ease. Besides, since Feng Xinglan is not dead, the human race has no losses to speak of. Killing those people this time has already given them a warning. If there is a next time, things will not be so simple.
From the beginning to the end,
Qin Shujian understood that the people who surrounded and killed Feng Xinglan were from those few clans. But he had no intention of exposing them. The human race was too powerful. In the heavenly court, the human race caused many races to be wary. Because the races were different, it was naturally impossible for everyone to be united. Therefore, in order to maintain the stability of the myriad races, Qin Shujian sometimes had to play the role of smoothing things over. In any case, as long as it did not affect the stability of the heavenly court, other problems were small problems. However, I hope they can be tactful. After all, if there is only one race in the world, it will be too monotonous. Qin Shujian thought of something, and his eyes turned cold. It was not that he did not dare to attack the other races, but he simply did not want to attack. Destroy the various races. The strength of the upper-class world would definitely be greatly reduced. At that time, it would be even more difficult to resist the demon abyss. The heavenly court seemed to be powerful, but that was because they had gathered the power of the myriad races. If the myriad races were not counted, the number of perfected immortals in the heavenly court could be counted on one hand. Therefore, unless it was absolutely necessary, Qin Shujian did not intend to destroy the myriad races. Because once he did that, the heavenly court's strength would be greatly reduced, and the upper-class world would be filled with blood. Therefore, he gave the earthly emperor and the others a chance. However, if the other party did not know what was good for them, Qin Shujian would definitely not be merciful. It was fine if he did not make a move. Once he made a move, it would not be as simple as cleaning up one or two races. Chapter 893. In the Western Continent. Feng Xinglan looked at the air in front of him, his face full of astonishment. What's going on? What the hell happened? Where am I? A large number of doubts surged in his mind, causing him to fall into a state of confusion. Feng Xinglan racked his brains, but he still couldn't figure out what had happened. Originally, he was besieged, and all the things in his hands that could self-destruct had already exploded. Just as he was about to resolutely self-destruct and drag one or two people down with him, the black-clothed cultivators who besieged him collectively disappeared.
No, they didn't disappear.
Instead, they were directly crushed into powder by an extremely tyrannical force. Although Feng Xinglan didn't see the specific process clearly, he could vaguely perceive the fleeting power. It was as vast as an abyss. It was as mighty as a prison.
Suddenly,
two words appeared in his mind. Emperor of Heaven. Feng Xinglan bowed in the direction of the fallen immortal realm. Only Qin Shujian could kill 6 powerhouses at the peak of the celestial being realm without any effort. He didn't even need to show up from the beginning to the end. Moreover, Qin Shujian was originally the sacred lord of the Qianyuan sacred ground, so he had a reason to help him. But what Feng Xinglan couldn't figure out was, how did the other party notice that he was besieged? He thought for a moment, but found that he couldn't figure it out. He didn't bother to waste any more time and continued to fly toward the eastern continent. He was inexplicably besieged. This made Feng Xinglan feel that someone must be targeting him. Right now, the safest thing was to return to the Qianyuan sacred ground. It took a long time to cross from the western continent to the eastern continent. However, when he entered the original human territory, Feng Xinglan directly entered the eastern city and then returned to the eastern continent through the transmission array. Light flickered. The power of the transmission array couldn't shake the divine soul of a powerhouse at the peak of the celestial being realm. Feng Xinglan watched the scene change and soon saw a familiar place. Liangshan City. It turned out to be just a city of a small sect. But with the rise of Qin Shujian, Liangshan City's reputation also grew. When Qin Shujian became the Emperor of Heaven, Cold Mountain City became the holy land of the human race. Anyone with some knowledge would go to Liangshan City to see the traces left behind by the Emperor of Heaven. It didn't take long. Feng Xinglan returned to the Qianyuan sacred ground. At this moment, the 5 stone steels summoned by Qin Shujian had returned to the human emperor's palace. But there was a difference. The power of faith in the 5 stone steels was almost completely drained, causing the various mystical properties on the stone steels to dissipate. Fortunately, there was nothing wrong with the content recorded on the stone tablet. Otherwise, this would be a major blow to the Qianyuan sacred ground. This was because the reason why the Qianyuan sacred ground could become the sacred ground of the human clan today, and even without enough strong people, it could still compete with the Great Zhao Empire. The 5 stone tablets were a big part of the reason. The contents recorded within were indispensable treasures for the human race. Everyone wanted to enter the Qianyuan sacred ground and observe the stone tablet in person, one after another. This naturally led to the supreme status of the Qianyuan sacred ground. Of course, Qin Shujian was also a factor. Because of this, no one dared to rob the Qianyuan sacred ground of such a treasure. If it weren't for Qin Shujian, with the strength of the Qianyuan sacred ground, they wouldn't be qualified to keep the 5 stone tablets. Inside the Qianyuan hall, Qin Yuanbai had also returned from the heavenly court and had gathered many elders for a meeting. Seeing Feng Xinglan return, he also had a smile on his face. "Deputy Sacred Lord, you came back at the right time." "I almost couldn't come back." Feng Xinglan shook his head. Thinking of how he was besieged, his face became gloomy again. Hearing this, the expressions of all the elders changed. "Deputy Sacred Lord, what do you mean?" An elder asked in a deep voice. Feng Xinglan sat down in his seat and said lightly, "When I returned from the extraterritorial battlefield, I was besieged by several masked cultivators at the peak of the celestial being realm. In the end, a mysterious strong person took action and killed those assassins. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to come back alive." How dare someone assassinate the Deputy Sacred Lord of the Qianyuan sacred ground? We absolutely can't let this matter go. The Deputy Sacred Lord may know the identity of those assassins. Our Qianyuan sacred ground must not be humiliated. The elders were all filled with righteous indignation, and it seemed that they wanted to fight those assassins. Seeing this, Feng Xinglan didn't reply, but Qin Yuanbai spoke first. "With the current strength of the human clan, I'm afraid it's not easy to send out several strong cultivators at the peak of the celestial being realm as assassins. Although the spiritual energy had increased greatly and there were many strong cultivators emerging, but the foundation of the human clan was still shallow. After millions of years of consumption, the number of strong cultivators of the human clan could be counted on one hand. Excluding the Qianyuan sacred ground, it was impossible for the human clan to gather a few strong cultivators at the peak of the celestial being realm. But until now, the Qianyuan sacred ground hadn't received any news. It was obvious. Those assassins were probably from other clans. Yes, Those assassins are undoubtedly from other clans. Unfortunately, they didn't show their bodies from beginning to end. I can't be sure which clan they are from. Fang Xinglan sighed. He was also a little unwilling to give up. He was fine, but he was ambushed by a group of people. If it weren't for Qin Shujian's secret help, he would definitely have died there. Such a great hatred. If he didn't report it, Fang Xinglan couldn't take it lying down. But those black-clothed cultivators didn't show any clues at all, and he couldn't get much information. Qin Yuanbai fell into deep thought. A moment later, he woke up from his contemplation and said calmly, "Speaking of which, I received a piece of news. I heard that during this court meeting, the Emperor of Heaven announced something. That is, if no Third Realm Grandmaster is born within 10 years, a selection will be held. The strongest cultivator of any of the 3 realms will be able to become a god. I suspect that the sudden ambush of the Deputy Sacred Lord has something to do with this matter. You mean someone is worried that I will break through to the 3rd realm and become a god?" Fang Xinglan was startled. What Qin Yuanbai said was indeed something he hadn't thought about. But now that he thought about it carefully, it seemed like it was the same thing. Qin Yuanbai said, "The human clan now has the most god positions among all the clans in the Heavenly Court. The Great Zhao clan alone has 3 god positions, not to mention the others. It's natural for the myriad clans to be afraid. Speaking of which, you said that a mysterious strong cultivator helped. What's going on?" "I'm not sure. Those black-clothed cultivators were suddenly killed, and I didn't see anything." Fang Xinglan shook his head and didn't tell him his original guess. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.